And at first it was like, okay, I was going to print money. I was like, well, if I can just print my own money, you know what I mean? Like if I can just print my own money. He contacted the Postmaster General. The Postmaster General contacted the Secret Service, and they set up a sting. And I show up there to pick up a package one day, and they got me. I almost had these dummies. Like I almost had them because I had nothing in my apartment. Like there was nothing they could do. They were holding my phone, and they were kind of talking to me like about who's Jose and this and that and the other. I'm like, yeah, I was just playing stupid. And then Jose calls my phone. So they pick it up. And he was like, I've been tracking the package. He's like, I just seen you got it delivered. He's like, do you want to bring it? Do you want to meet me with the package? I'm like, nah, I don't think I really can. And they were nodding. Yeah. I was like, oh, dude, now I'm in it.
What is up, guys? And welcome back to the One Night in Bangkok podcast. If you guys are new here, my name is Eric. I've been here in Thailand for 6 years now. I'm here with my favorite Bangkok podcast girl, Ern, and we're bringing you some of the coolest people and places that we've come across here in Bangkok. If you're coming here soon, if you want to live here, hit the subscribe button. We've got so many things coming up in the next few months, and we don't want you to miss anything. If you don't have time for the full 1 hour long episodes and you want to just watch shorter clips like throughout the day or throughout the week, we've got a One Night in Bangkok clips channel you can check out that we just post random topics to. If you want to listen to just the audio while you're driving or you're at work, you're at the gym, we're on Apple and Spotify podcasts as well. I'll drop the link for that down below. And if you are coming here to live or to work or whatever, and you just have questions on like how to get set up, where to go out, how to get a bank account, if your Thai girl is running a scam on you, whatever, we've got a private Facebook group set up. So if you have any questions for me or Ern, you can just tag us in there. It's a lot easier than trying to send us a message because I don't know about you, Ern, but I get a lot of random messages. It's just easier to put everyone in one group and
better
answer it that way. Lastly, if you are enjoying the show, if you're having a good time with us, buy us a coffee to support the channel. You can buy us a drink down below, and we'll keep this party rolling. Tonight, I have a very interesting guest. I'm very excited for this conversation. We have John Boseak.
Yes, sir.
Here.
Yeah.
Now, John, I hate to tell you, but there's some men from the Secret Service in the lobby. This is all a setup. This is an elaborate setup to bring you. No, I'm just kidding.
I knew it.
So, John, where do we begin with you? Okay, let me give the background for how this started, and then maybe we'll jump into a little bit of your story.
Of course.
So, I was watching this YouTube channel. His name's Matthew Cox, right?
Yes. Inside True Crime.
He does these true crime interviews. Really interesting YouTube channel. You should check it out.
Yeah.
Your interview on his channel popped up, and you were talking all about moving to Thailand.
Yeah.
Which that kind of like blew my mind because his channel has nothing to do with Thailand or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I just thought like, wow, like for Thailand to be penetrating that far into the kind of like mainstream American thing.
Yeah.
So I watched the whole thing, and then actually I saw Ern that day, and I was like, wow, this is like, I think a lot of people are going to be moving here, and you're one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think when I watched your video, one thing that kind of stood out to me was you talked a lot about because you were explaining it to the host, like what Thailand is like, what this. What stood out to me is like, I would say I agree with 99.9% of what you said. And I was like, wow, this guy is like very level-headed. Maybe he hasn't, were you even here at all? Or did you just read everything online?
Just research. Yeah.
So you hadn't
hours
even been
and hours
here.
and hours of research.
But I would say almost everything you were saying, I would agree with as someone that lives here. But I watched that whole interview, and then I realized you have a whole other interview.
Yeah, that's quite a few. Yeah.
4 hours long on his channel, which you kind of talked about your whole story. And I'm like, I gotta talk to this guy.
Yeah.
So where should we start? So you're from Florida, right?
I was born in Michigan, in Detroit, but I grew up in Florida. I spent my entire life in Florida. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I think a lot of people in the next few years are going to be coming over to Thailand.
Yeah.
From the U.S.,
Southeast Asia,
Western
just in general.
countries.
Yeah. Absolutely.
For a lot of reasons. And I think that's something that we can relate on. However, my life story up until this point, because we're a similar age, I'm a little younger than you, but we're a similar age. my life story up to this point is a lot more boring than yours.
Okay.
And you had a really interesting quote. I think you said something like, you're at the halftime of your life.
Yeah.
And now it's time to decide what the second half is going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk about the first half.
Sure.
So you...
How far do you want to go back?
Well, let's give me a little... It doesn't have to be like 4 hours, but
Sure, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up in the U.S.
Right. So I didn't really have your typical upbringing. You know, I had a very eventful youth. Let's just say I started getting into trouble really early on. You know, choose your cliche. My single parent household. My father wasn't involved. My mother had to work 2 jobs. I wasn't supervised. I had the wrong kind of influences in my life. Yada yada yada. You know, I wasn't really taught how to behave as a normal human being. Like growing up, like, you know, go to bed at a certain time, wake up at a certain time, pick up trash, respect people, you know, don't steal, don't break the law. Like I didn't have any of those values instilled in me at a young age. So the trajectory that my life took because of that was, you know, an extremely off the beaten path. You know what I mean? I started getting into trouble real young, stealing cars when I was 13. I was in every single program you could ever imagine as a child. I was in youth homes, boot camps, BTS centers, all kinds of crazy stuff. And then as the years progressed, the crimes got, you know, a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And then, you know, everything kind of just snowballed and eventually led me into federal prison in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the culmination of...
So you didn't have really any family support?
I had no structure growing up. Yeah, I had no structure whatsoever.
Now, did you have any extended family?
Like aunts and uncles and all that stuff. Everybody was in Michigan.
But they weren't around?
They just weren't. My family's so strange, man. My family is... If it doesn't concern their house, or like their family unit, they're not going to expend any kind of time or resources to help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like my family, like they physically exist here on this planet. They're here. They just... You know,
I get it. But one of the reasons I brought it up is
Yeah.
because I don't know. I mean, you haven't been here that long yet, but the longer you're here, you see kind of how like Thai culture is with their family.
Yep.
And
it's all about the family unit. Yes.
even in these
Yeah.
kind of, especially in these kind of single parent situations, it's like the whole family is raising.
The kids take care of the parents when the parents can no longer take care of themselves. And it's all about, that kind of cohesion just doesn't exist in general in the U.S. I don't feel like it does.
Yeah.
Especially it didn't in my situation. I've pretty much been on my own, just kind of figuring things out day to day.
I heard your story about how you were stealing bikes.
That's where it started.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. It started just stealing bicycles. I would go to the school and they would keep them locked up in this pen, and I would climb over the fence and I would grab the bicycles and climb over the fence and throw them over the fence to my buddy. I was a rotten child. I really was. I was a rotten child. I would steal anything that wasn't bolted down. You know, I don't know why I was like that. It wasn't like, see, even though my life was bad as a child, like we had a home. Like I was never neglected, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to kind of put off that I was neglected as a child, because I wasn't. Like we had a roof over our head, we had food in the cupboard at all times. You know, we didn't have money to go to like Disney World. You know, like there weren't a lot of extras. You know what I mean? Like no vacations or nothing like that. But so I really didn't have a reason to be stealing. It was just, you know, I was just around the bad kids in the neighborhood. That's what they were doing. So that's what I started doing.
You have a brother, right?
I do have I have a younger brother. He's 3 years younger than me, and we have the same mom. Me and him grew up together. Yeah. So, but me and him are complete and total opposites. Yeah. He took the different path than I did. You know, he chose to walk the righteous way. He works for a bank and he's got a family.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't have the easiest upbringing.
No, I wouldn't. No, I didn't at all. No.
But you got into credit card scamming, or I heard you calling it carding.
Carding
like,
is the...
Like that was like the term.
That's the terminology, yeah, is carding. That started out of... Oh, such a long story. So, okay, so I was basically homeless as a youth. It got to the point to where my mother really couldn't handle me. Mm-hmm. You know, I was constantly getting brought home by the police. I was causing problems. So my mother at the age of like 13, she was like, go.
When you were 13?
I was 13.
Oh, and then you have to...
I had to figure it out from myself after that. I had to figure out where to eat, where to sleep every night, where to get my meals from, everything at the age of 13. So that's basically where it started, on the street, scamming and just, going from house to house to house to house. And then as I became a teenager, it became a little bit harder to crash on people's couches. So, I had to figure out ways to make money from there. And it all kind of started with, I gained administrative access to the Fort Lauderdale Public Library computer systems. And I was able to add and remove programs to the computer system. So I was able to put on like Photoshop and all these different programs. And I was making counterfeit food coupons for like Burger King, McDonald's, Pizza Hut, so I could go there and get free food.
Wait. So I think I remember you talking about this. You didn't like hack their system. You spent a lot of time at the library.
I was just there every day because I didn't have anywhere else to go.
One day the staff just walked away from her computer.
The librarian got up and walked away from her station, and because usually when you log out, it'll just go back to the login screen.
The computer.
But it didn't, and I could see where she was. She was 4 or 5 stories up, so I walked over and I got on her terminal. I just added an extra user. I set up an extra administrative
but what was your thought
privileges.
Process? Did you have like a plan or an idea like what you're going to do with it?
No, I just seen an opportunity.
Because if I was at a library and was like, oh, I could gain admin access to the library computer, I'd be like, okay.
I just seen an opportunity, and I knew that I couldn't add or remove programs to the computers without having administrative access to the computers.
Oh, so the computers didn't have like Photoshop or anything like that?
Didn't have anything on them. So you could only browse the web, and even that was like firewalled to death.
Because this was around what year?
2003, 2004, something like that.
Were you born, Ern?
Yeah.
I was born in 2000.
Yeah.
So when I was 3.
22 years ago. So,
okay, so you got yourself access to the Fort Lauderdale, is that
Fort Lauderdale Public library system.
In Florida.
Yeah.
You added these programs to your computer, and what were you going to do with it?
Oh, well, back in the day, we would burn CDs. Like you couldn't, like music wasn't just, you couldn't just turn on your phone and listen
I had
to
a few mixes.
Whatever you wanted to.
CDs.
Like music back then, like you had to know a guy that would make the CD, or you had to go to like Sam Goody or something and buy. You remember Sam Goody?
I don't think we had too many where I lived, but we had like Strawberries or some other version of that.
Yeah. So like there was like an FYE or something like that at the malls. And so you couldn't get music discs, you couldn't get DVDs, so you had to go to like the gas stations and like the little hood bodegas to get the bootleg CDs. So I would just burn music CDs and like DVDs, and I would sell them at school, or like, just walking around. Like I would ride the city transit all day long, and I'd have a backpack full of like music CDs and everything else that I would burn at the library. And then I figured out how the UPC barcode labeling system worked for the food coupons for pretty much every restaurant in the entire city. And once I figured out the algorithm, I was able to generate my own barcodes, and I used Photoshop to make my own coupons. So then I could go to...
How old are you at this time?
16.
And you're using Photoshop already like this? That's
15, 16.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is the early days of Adobe.
Yeah. There was no YouTube to give you tutorials.
Yeah.
No, YouTube was 07. And that was cat videos, when it first came out. So yeah, this is in the very, very early days of all the Adobe software. And I believe I had like a pirated version that I got off of like a P2P site, like the person-to-person file sharing. And so I had was running like a cracked version of like the earliest Adobe software on the Fort Lauderdale. And yeah, like I said, I would just make coupons, and I would go to get free food at restaurants and stuff like that. And then that's where it all started. That's when I started figuring out like, man, there's workarounds
to jump to credit cards.
Yeah. So funny story. I went to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, while I was homeless. I was going there, and because I graduated high school, believe it or not, I graduated high school while homeless, just sleeping on friends' couches and shit. I got my high school diploma. Got my high school diploma by myself. There was nobody there. And then I was staying in a homeless shelter for teenagers in Fort Lauderdale. And one of the staff members was a freelance graphic design artist on the side. And so he would be doing things on his computer, and I would show him workarounds for in shortcuts and how to, and he was like, "Are you serious?" So he plugged me in with a counselor at the Fort Lauderdale at the Art Institute. So when I went to the Art Institute and I took the little aptitude test, they were like, "Well, you could be pretty much a teacher here." So they gave me I got a grant. I got 2 grants, a scholarship, and financial aid, because it was a really expensive school at the time.
Because we have a lot of people from all over the world.
Yeah.
They might not know. It's like a college for...
So the Art Institute in America, they do like graphic design, media arts. They do like all the visual side of like video editing, color coding, sound design, sound engineering, choreography, things like that. So anything that's, creative, yeah. And there's also like a different version where they do for people who are going for like a fashion design. So it all depends on like which place you're going to. I was going to for graphic design and media arts. That was my major. And so I was living in my car. I was sleeping in my car in the parking garage of the Art Institute while I was going to the Art Institute. So every day I'd wake up in the parking garage, I would take all my classes, and then I would go and sit in other classes that I wasn't even enrolled in, because if you're going there, they'll let you just come and sit in the class. I'm not going to get credit for it, but I'm still going to learn. So while I was going to school for graphic design, media arts, and like I was working on like the front end of like web development, like C++, CSS, what was the one? They don't even use it anymore, but there was another, before Python, there was another language. So I was learning that, and then during the day, while in between classes, I was going to classes for videography, sound design, all the stuff for like the actual filming and visual aid. So I got my degree there, and then when you graduate from the Art Institute, they have what's called like a job fair at the end, and while you're there, you work on like a mock portfolio. So it's like I was doing like a full corporate packages for mock companies that didn't exist. I would do like their whole website. I would design a whole website for them, the employee handbook, the logo, company logo, everything. It would look like a legitimate company. They just didn't exist. So I had things like that in my portfolio. And at this job fair, you go and there's like prospective employers come and they set up all these little booths, and all the kids that are going to graduate go around to each booth. You present them your portfolio this is what I'm working on. This is where my strengths are. This is where my weaknesses are. And then, either you get hired or you don't get hired. It's like one of those things to help you get straight into the workforce when you graduate. I graduated and I didn't hear nothing for like 2 or 3 weeks. I wasn't even thinking about it. And then all of a sudden this company calls me, actually contacts my counselor. My counselor contacts me. I go in for an interview and they wanted me to come work for them. It was a print company out of Miami. We did auto wraps. We did any kind of screen printing. We did printing on like flyers, t-shirts. We did pretty much everything. And they wanted me to come work for them. They weren't going to give me lead graphic design right away because I didn't have any experience. But they put me working right under the lead guy for graphic design. And so they hired me straight out of the gate, $80,000 a year salary.
That's a lot of money for graphic design in what year?
I've been living 2000. This was 2000. I graduated I graduated high school in 03 and I went there from 04. So I graduated in like 05 and I started working in 05. Yeah, $80,000 a year in 05. And I've been living in my car for years. Like I've been homeless since I was 13. So for me, this was like a huge break. You know what I mean? And like finally, I don't have to scam anymore. I don't have to steal food from 7-Eleven to eat anymore. You don't have to climb in dumpsters to eat fucking... this is what I was doing to survive before. And like now I don't have to do any of that. And I remember when I got my first check, I went and I got a condo on Brickell in downtown Miami. I went to the car lot and I got like a brand new current model year Cadillac STS, sunroof, leather seats, everything. And to me, this was life-changing. This completely changed my life. And so, I was working at this graphic design company. Everything was going great. The guy that I was working under, his visa, something happened with his visa and he had to go back to his country. I think the owners were from, I think it was either Colombia or Argentina were the owners. And so he had to go back to his company, or he had to go back to his country. And so that just by... ipso de facto made me lead graphic design artist. So then I got to hire 3 more people to work under me. So now I'm running a team of people, and we had it broken into 2 different sections. We had doing all there was one like for all the media print side for like the t-shirts, flyers, banners, and then there was the auto wrap side that did all the vehicle wraps. And we had these giant printers. We would print like custom wraps for these vehicles and stuff. It was a really cool place. 6 or 7 months in, I want to say almost about a year in, I come into work one day and I thought they were filming a movie in the parking lot. I see all these FBI agents, the black SUVs, it looked like a movie scene. And it's Miami, so they're shooting movies all over the place. So I'm walking in, I'm like, oh shit, they're shooting a movie in the parking lot. I walk around the building, I go in the front door, and there's FBI agents all in the inside of the building. So they pull me in this office and they grill me for like an hour. How long have you worked here? How do you know the owners? Yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So the owner's wife shows up after I'm sitting in the parking lot. She shows up and she writes me a check for the remainder of my salary for the rest of the year. She's like, go to the bank and cash this right now. She's like, don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait 3 hours. She's like, leave here and go to the bank and cash this right now. And they completely shut everything down.
Why do you think she wanted to get you that check?
I think they were getting ready to close all the accounts down for the business.
But why do you think she cared so much about making sure you were okay?
Me and her were on really, really good terms. Like her husband was a bastard. Like he would make her cry all the time, and so she was like running the business. He would only show up once a week to sign checks, or if something was going wrong, he would come in. But she was like the face of the business. She dealt with the customers, and me and her were just like on a really, really good face-to-face base. Like, there were times when I'd go in there and she'd be crying, and I would sit and talk to her, and so I think she just, she didn't want to F me over. You know what I mean? So she cut me a check for the remainder of my salary for the year. They closed the business down. Apparently they were running some kind of money laundering operation for a big cartel, like a big drug cartel out of South America. And they were using that business as one of the main, money laundering operations. I had no idea. I was just,
You're just like, here's my mock portfolio.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, listen, you can check out, you can check me out. I went to the Art Institute. They hired me on this date. I've been working here almost a year. I don't know anything about how they run this business. There was a lot of money coming through that business. I noticed that. That's one thing I did notice. And my salary at the time, I didn't know it, but it wasn't typical.
Of somebody, now it makes sense.
Yeah,
right.
Of somebody coming straight out of college just wasn't typical.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I found out when I tried to get another job after that, is that nobody was paying $80K a year for graphic design artists. Even if you were the lead graphic design artist, they weren't paying that. So I hit an impasse at that point in time. I was used to kind of living a certain way. I had a nice condo, I had a nice car. I was able to buy groceries. I was able to go out. I was living a normal life, and I was comfortable for really what was the first time ever that in my entire memory that I was actually living like a normal human being, and that I could wake up in the morning and breathe, without stress or anything. And unfortunately, this kind of thrust me back into a very stressful situation. And like I said, I was trying to get another job after this, and I was beating the pavement. I was, knocking doors. I was making phone calls. I was going on job interviews, but it was like $10 an hour. $12 an hour, no salary.
Right.
Nobody was paying salary. It was $10 an hour, $12 an hour. So it was like, dude, I can't live on that. I can't even get a 1-bedroom apartment on $10 an hour. I'm screwed, and prior to me kind of going and working for this company, I had been kind of like going on in the early 2000s. There was something called carding forums.
Carding forums.
Yes. Now it was like the Reddit for fraud. Now everything's done on the dark web.
I was going to ask, was this on the open internet?
Yeah. So back when I first started, there was no dark web. There was no onion router. There was none of that even existed back then. This is 25 years ago. And so it was just on the open web. I mean, the sites, you couldn't gain access to the site unless you knew somebody that was on the site, and they had to give you to get on. And the servers were all like private servers in I don't know, Russia or wherever they were. And so you could get on these Carter forums, and they were basically just a Reddit for fraud. I mean, there were tutorials. Now everything's behind a paywall. They call it sauce, and nobody wants to teach you how to do. But back in the day, people were just sharing information. This is how you launder money. This is how you print currency. This is how you make fraudulent credit cards. This is how you scam the banks. People were just excited to teach other people how to do things back then, and nobody back then was like, oh, I'm going to charge people for this information, because it wasn't like it is today. And so there were these carding forums, and like I said, prior to going to the Art Institute, when I was on the street, I was on these forums, kind of learning about fraud and learning about bank fraud and learning about
every teenager, college student is doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, I don't know how. I just one day I think somebody might have told me about it. Somebody I was hanging out with, oh, you got to check this forum out. And that's all it took for me. I jumped down a rabbit hole after that. Yeah, I was obsessed. But then I kind of was like, okay, went to college, got the job, and kind of veered away from it. And before I was just like a spectator. I was just reading. I didn't really committed any fraud. I never took it that extra step further until this kind of calamity happened in my life. And now I'm like, I got student loans to pay. I got a $1,200 a month rent. I got a $900 a month freaking car payment on a brand new car, and it's just like, what am I going to do? So I jumped back on these forums, and that's when it clicked. I was like, oh, I know about. So I jumped back on the forums, and I just started reading tutorials, about credit card fraud, and because I didn't even know like if I was going to do the credit card fraud or what I was going to do. I just started reading tutorials, and at first it was like, okay, I was going to print money. I was like, well, if I can just print my own money, you know what I mean? Like if I can just print my own money, yeah. But then that was just like, it was way too complicated, and like you needed these giant to do it right. You needed like,
a huge
50,000, like these big giant presses. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not.
Because you can't, I think most consumer printers, they detect a pattern that doesn't even allow you to.
Even if you do print, it'll print the void over the whole. Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't a viable money-making scheme, if you will. And that's when I kind of fell into the carding. I found this little tutorial that said that it gave like a website address, and you go to the website and you could buy people's credit card numbers, just the numbers and their name. And then you could use that information to go online and purchase things off of websites. So once I kind of figured out how to do that, and then, you got to learn the whole cybersecurity side of things, which I had no idea about, like VPNs and like ISPs and, like changing your VPN to match the city of the credit card you're using. Like there's a whole other side to it that I just didn't know. So I had to learn all of that. And that's basically where I got into it. I just started doing online carding, and getting stuff shipped to like UPS stores.
So you're saying you'd buy someone's stolen credit card number, their name. Mm-hmm. Do you need their address?
See, it just depends on like what packets the information, because sometimes it came with everything. Like sometimes you would get the first name, last name, date of birth, credit card number, expiration date, the 3-digit code on the back of the credit card, the billing address. Sometimes you would get all that information. Other times you would just get the name, that the information that's on the physical credit card itself. So it depends on like what kind of value of information you get, will dictate where you can go and shop.
Do you buy one at a time, or do you buy like 100 at a time?
I was just doing them one at a time, $5-6.
What does it cost?
An average debit card in America is about $5.
Wow.
Yeah, it's about $5 for just a regular, bank. Yeah.
Okay. So you get the information. Mm-hmm. But you can only use it online at this time, right? Because you can't, you don't have a physical card to go into a store.
No. Yeah, you can only go online, and you got to figure out how to mask your IP address, and change it to the city of the card, and then you got to figure out like BIN numbers, which is like, so a BIN number is your bank identification number. So it's the first 6 digits of any credit card will tell you what bank issued it. It'll tell you if it's a gold card, debit card, standard card, and it also has a geographical location, so it'll tell you like what geographically where that BIN number was issued from, and I just found all this through tutorials, and like once you learn all these little points of information, then the credit card, the numbers that you buy are more valuable because now you know how to use them better.
Yeah.
And that's where I jumped in. I just started ordering stuff online. It started with electronics. And then those kind of started getting harder to order.
So to clarify, you were buying these things with the intent to sell them, to make money, not for yourself.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I was just buying and then reselling. And back then, this is before Amazon. I think eBay was real big back then.
eBay? I was going to ask.
It was Craigslist. Yeah. It was Craigslist and eBay. eBay was kind of a pain in the ass because you had to sell it, and then you had to ship it, and then you had to wait for the money to get deposited, and then eBay kind of took their cut, and you had to go through that whole rigmarole. But so Craigslist was like at the height of its game back then. Like there was nothing, everybody was on Craigslist. Like I would buy something online, like a TV or a PlayStation, I'd put it on Craigslist, it'd be gone within minutes. Sometimes a half hour, it would be gone. So the merchandise was really easy to move, once you physically got it. But it was hard. Like sometimes, like a lot of times, like the stuff wouldn't get shipped. or some people would call. Or
where did you bought the stuff online and you had it shipped to like a UPS store?
UPS store. And around this time, there were a lot of homes going into foreclosure in South Florida. So I went online and I found, I just got a bigger list of all the homes that were for being foreclosed on by the bank, and I would drive by, and if they were empty, then I knew I could go. Then I knew I could have stuff shipped to that address. Even I could go in the mailbox and get it.
But the sites that you bought the stolen merchandise from,
right? Yeah.
I mean, don't they eventually hear like, oh, these transactions were fraud? Like
they'll get a chargeback eventually when the person finds out like, oh, then they'll do a chargeback, but a chargeback takes about 72 hours to process, and you always do overnight shipping. And as long as the person doesn't catch the charge before you can get the stuff shipped to the address and get it, then you can have a successful.
But the sites never said like, oh, well, we shipped that product to this address.
Well, yeah.
But they don't go to the UPS store and say, well, who's picking this up?
The banks don't. So say my credit card gets run up like $1,000 in the bank. Yeah. The bank just puts my money back in my account, and they have some kind of system where they at the end of the year, they balance their books and it's just a write-off. They don't have investigators working for the bank that's going to track that one. You know what I mean? Like, it's because there's so much fraud.
Isn't that weird though? I mean, there's so much fraud because I
think there's some fraud going on the bank side.
So up until this point, everything you do is just buying things online with the digital information.
Yeah.
But you don't have a physical card.
No. That didn't come till much later. Yeah.
So what was the push to start doing making a card or getting a physical card?
So when you go to any kind of store and you swipe your debit card, your credit card or whatever, the information that's physically saved on the magnetic strip in the back of your credit card is subsequently saved on a server somewhere.
See, I always thought that was like encrypted or something, or
you would think it would be. But it's all that information is saved on a server somewhere, and these kids, they understand how to get this information off of these computers. I'm not a hacker.
When you say kids, I mean, they literally like teenagers or what?
I assume. I mean, I'm just saying kids because I don't know. I'm assuming it's kids, but it could be grown. It could be grown men. I'm not a hacker. I never went that route. I don't have the temperament for it, the patience, and plus you got to be really good at math, and I'm just not. So anytime you go, like I said, you go to a store, you swipe your debit card, all of that information that's on your magnetic strip is saved to a computer somewhere. Now they hack this information and they resell it. Okay, so you can buy this information, and with only one or two other pieces of equipment that are relatively inexpensive, I can clone your debit card. So I can take there's a machine called the MSR 206 reader writer. Now I can take a blank debit card or a Visa gift card or anything with a magnetic strip on it, and I could take the information that I purchased from these vendors, swipe the card and program it. Now I can go to a store and I can use your debit card, but it's written to a debit card that I physically have myself.
Yeah,
and that's where the next actually leap in like the progression of what I was doing, that's like the kind of route that it took, just the legwork became too much with the kind of virtual carding. In a lot of the orders, they just were getting shut down, they weren't getting processed, and I wasn't really making that much money. So that's when I got back on the carding forums and I started reading about in-store carding. And at this time, there were several vendors out of Eastern Europe that were selling it's called dump information is the terminology for it. And you could buy these dump informations for $10, $20 a piece, starting with like regular, like Visa Classics, MasterCard Gold or whatever, just regular debit cards, about $10, $15, $20 each. And then I buy the information, I physically write it to a card, and now I can go to a store and I could buy pretty much whatever. Well, you can't really buy whatever you want. And it's like, here's the thing is, you don't know how much money is in the bank account.
Yeah.
I don't know how much, you know what I mean?
You cannot check it?
No, there's no way to tell. Like, there's no way. There's no way to tell.
Like, when you buy these cards, you can only use them once or...
Depends. So I used one card for 2 months.
2 months?
This guy must have been rich.
You were buying stuff, he was paying the bill, and then you were buying more.
I was going crazy every day, just playing out. I made a game out of it to see how much I could rack up on this card every single day. And it just went on for months. That only happened that one time.
Wait, so you would normally just use cards until they
get declined. And then just toss them. Yeah. So, and so I figured out how to kind of get the numbers, and I figured out that, so like I said, at this time, there were only 2 or 3 vendors out of Eastern Europe that were selling these numbers at the time. And so I would buy the numbers.
How do you pay them?
At this time, there was something called LMZ, called Liberty Reserve, and then there was something else called WMZ, which is called Web Monies, which is basically like Bitcoin today, but it had no kind of function and there was no blockchain. It was basically like an escrow service. So I would send all this money to an escrow, which was like Web Monies, and then they would turn it over to WMZ is what it was called. And then like I could pay another person, they would have like a wallet and I could pay them in WMZ, and then there were exchangers where you could cash out the WMZ into currency.
This is all criminals doing this.
I would assume so.
There's no like.
I see
Your grandma isn't sending you money in WMZ.
No.
Okay.
And the FBI actually shut a lot of these places down in like the mid 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah. So Liberty Reserve got shut down. I think WMZ it turned into like a blockchain, and they tried to make it like a token out of it. Try to tokenize it and do like a whole blockchain kind of thing with it later down the line. But yeah, that's how you would pay, or straight up Western Union. Like I would be sending Western Unions to like weird little towns in Russia or South America or like all over the place. Yeah. At this time. So I started experimenting with the in-store carding. At this time, I just started, like I would go to like Walgreens or like Rite Aid, which is like the drugstore over there in the US.
For Earn, that's like Boots. Watson, maybe.
Yeah.
And so they would have these $100 Visa gift cards on the rack. And you have to get them off the rack. You have to go to the counter. You have to give them $100, and they program the card for you. Well, I would just steal a whole rack of cards and take them. Because I only needed the card. I didn't need to get it activated at the counter. So now I had all these stacks of $100 Visa gift cards, and I would write other people's credit cards to the Visa gift cards. And then I would go out to the stores and I would use the Visa gift cards, and that's pretty much how I got into doing the in-store carding. But even that kind of ran its course after a while.
Yeah, because I remember when you go to buy something in a store, a lot of times they might ask to see an ID.
Sure, yeah.
Or they...
But if it's a gift card...
Oh, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like,
but don't sometimes they enter in like the last 4 digits of the card number?
They do, yeah. So a lot of times when you go to with a POS machine, it's the point of sale machine. In order for the POS machine to physically process the sale, they have to ask for your debit card. They have to look at the debit card. They have to type in the last 4 digits of the number that's physically on the card to make sure that it matches what's encoded to the magnetic strip of the card. They also ask for your driver's license to make sure the name on the driver's license matches the name on the debit card or the credit card. Now, this is only above a certain limit. Now, each store had a limit, and you didn't know what that limit was until you hit it and they asked for the card. Now, Target was like $300. Walmart was $500. Like a lot of other high-end retail places was like $300 to $500, and then they would have to physically ask, for the card. And I ran into a lot of those problems in the beginning because I didn't know.
So what did you say when they're like, oh, this doesn't match up?
Oh, I would just make up something and walk away from the counter, and it would be awkward, but I would never give them the card.
But nobody's tried to stop you or anything like that? They just let you walk away?
Yeah, well, I just would never give them the card. Yeah.
Oh, I
wouldn't give them the card. When they asked for the card, I wouldn't give it to them because I'd be like, wait a minute.
Because you already knew.
No, I already knew. It's game over. Yeah, it's game over. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got into doing that, and then that kind of ran its course after a while because I'm thinking like, okay, how can I expand? How can I expand this? Expand's not the right word I'm looking for. How can I? What's the terminology I'm looking for? I always lose my words when I'm doing these things.
Like scale it up?
Scale it up. That's exactly what I'm looking for. How can I scale this operation up? Because I'm doing okay. I'm making all right money, but I'm paying my bills and I'm not really able to do much more than that. I don't really have much money for extras. And dude, I'm putting my face on cameras every single day all over town. So it's like, okay, if I put every Walmart in my GPS for a 20-mile radius and I hit every single Walmart and I get a laptop from every single Walmart, I'm doing good, right? I just got 20 laptops. But now I got to go back and do it again. And I got to do it again. And I got to do it again. And now like you can only go to the same Walmart and buy PS4s and laptops so many times before they call the police on you.
Yeah.
So now I got to start flying out to different cities. And so now I'm in like bumfuck Wisconsin. I'm committing credit card fraud in some little town in Wisconsin that I don't know where I am. I don't know the local laws. I don't know any of that. So now I'm flying all over the United States and I'm, going in-store carding and I'm shipping all of the stuff back to Florida. And then I got a storage unit in Florida packed full of TVs and PS4s. And back at this time, it was the iPod Air, the iPod Nano, and the iPod Touch before the iPhone.
Yeah.
Like the iPod looked like the iPhone does now, except it was just, for music. Xboxes, anything you could really imagine. I had a whole storage unit full of that crap. And then it was like, I was capped on what I could earn, and it was way too much legwork. And I was doing, I was putting myself in way too many cameras, and dude, I'm risk going to prison for what? $5,000 a week? It's just the math wasn't mathing at that point. So like I said, I had to figure out a way to scale the business, and I had to figure out a way to kind of remove a lot of the risk from the situation from myself, So that's when I kind of reevaluated what I was doing, because at this time I really wasn't making any really real money with it. I wasn't making millions of dollars. I was just making enough money to pay my bills, buy groceries, put gas in my car, and maybe go out on the weekend a few times. Yeah. So it was like, so I had to figure out a way to scale. And that's when I was like, well, I went on the forums and I was like, what can I do? How, because there has to be a different avenue for this. And I remember something somebody once told me about, I'm a big history buff. I like to memorize things, throughout history. And somebody once told me, and I don't even remember why this kind of rung at this point in time, but I'm glad it did. Somebody once told me that when the gold rush happened out west in California during like the 1800s, the guys making all the money out there weren't the people mining the gold. It was the people selling the pickaxes. And I heard that one time, and that was like, okay, well, maybe I should start vending. So then it was like, how hard is it to make these cards? Like, cause like I was going online, and it got, like you said, it got to the point to where I had to start ordering cards from vendors online, like fraudulent, like legitimately fraudulent credit cards that were made from scratch. Like,
so you were buying fake plastic?
Yeah, I had to start buying plastic, because like you said, like they were doing the last 4, and like I had to scale the operation. So like the next step was, I was like, I have to get my hands on some really good plastic, because now I can make a little bit more money, and it kind of takes a little bit of the risk out of the situation, because I don't have to put myself out in so many cameras. Instead of hitting 5 or 10 stores a week, I can go out and do 1 or 2, and now I can spread those out a little bit, and it gave me a little bit more leeway every time. But one thing I noticed right away with all of the vendors is they were all full of shit. Like, you would order something from somebody and it would take 2 weeks to get it, or you would message them and it would take them 3 days to get back to you on Messenger. I'm like, these people are running a business here, and it's not being ran properly. So I just seen an opportunity.
You just thought you could do it better.
I just seen an opportunity to kind of get in, and for whatever reason, right around this time, there was something going on called Operation Open Market, where the United States, it was a joint operation between the Russian FSB, the United States Secret Service, FBI, and another crime agency out of Eastern Europe. And what they were doing is they were systematically busting all of these people in Europe that were selling plastic, selling credit card numbers. They were all of the administration, all of the administrators from these carding forums were all getting busted. They were all going down. And this all happened right when I decided to start vending. So there was just a vacuum in the space. Like, there was nobody vending. Like, it was hard to get plastic at this time.
Did you know how to make a credit card?
I had no idea. None at this time. Absolutely no idea. So then that sent me down a rabbit hole. I just had to figure out like what printers to use, like where do I get the plastic, like I have a background in graphic design, so I can design the Visas, the Visa logo and the credit card layouts and the SIG strip and all the micro print and all that on the credit card. All that was easy, because I've been designing shit for years and years. It was the actual like making the physical plastic that I think that was like the biggest hurdle that I had to figure out. And my break came when I actually lost my driver's license, and I had to go to the DMV in Florida to get my driver's license. And I'm sitting there, and when I walked up to the counter, they print the driver's license right behind them, and they give them to you right there. And I looked at the model of the printer that they used to print the driver's license with. And as soon as I was in the parking lot in my car on Google, seeing that seeing if that model printer was readily available to the public, or you had to get like a special license, or they only sold them to DMV. And sure enough, anybody can go right to the company that sells them and buy them.
But you would think that company is suspicious if any random guy that's like, oh, can I buy a printer?
Yeah. So I went and I just searched the web, and they were selling them on eBay. Okay. Yeah, in bulk. So I went on, and I think the first printer I bought, I couldn't afford the good one. The good one was the Fargo HDP 5000, was like the really good one for printing. That printer was like $5,500 or $6,000 or something. So I had to buy like kind of a shittier version. It was still a Fargo printer, but it was like kind of like the shittier version. And I just started experimenting, with different print mediums, the print ribbon, and like so many like technical things.
Where do you get the plastic from for the card?
So there's websites out there that just sell blank plastic, and you could buy them in big you can buy them in big sleeves by the 1,000, and they're just all white, and they have a magnetic strip on them, and you feed them into one side of the printer, just like you feed a blank piece of paper into a regular printer, and
So it's like that kind of blank plastic. Anybody can buy it.
Anybody can buy the blank PVC.
They're not gonna ask
plastic.
you if you buy it for.
No, because I mean, let's say you want to make employee ID badges, or you want to do gift cards, or you want to do whatever you want to do. It's all that's readily available.
But back then, besides the magnetic strip, the credit cards had like, what do you call it? Like
embossing.
The numbers were raised.
Yeah, but it was embossed. I had to learn all of that. So I had to learn the embossing, and then there's tipping, which is like the silver or gold foil that's on the embossed numbers.
Oh.
Because if you emboss it by itself, it's just raised plastic. So then you have to have another machine called a tipping machine that actually puts the hot foil onto the numbers. So it was like I dove down this rabbit hole on just like experimenting with different pieces of equipment. It took me about like a solid 3 or 4 months of just like printing and lining things and learning the different temperatures of the print head. 'Cause I was melting cards, and I would print a card and I would emboss it, and then like the temperature settings on the tipping machine would be off, so it would flatten all the numbers that I just embossed. So it was like this learning process, And it took me about 3 months, but after 3 months, I feel like I had a viable product that looked like it was issued from a financial institution. Yeah. And after that happened, after I felt like I had a really good, product, I just started contacting all the administrators on all of the carding forums.
So you didn't even want to use the cards yourself, because now you have a good card. You could buy the info.
Yeah, I did, a little just to see if it was passable and if they worked, and I never had any issues with them. But it was like you said, like I wanted to scale the operation, and I wanted to stop going into stores and using these cards, because I knew eventually I was going to get caught. Eventually I was going to get caught, and it wasn't going to be home. It was going to be in some little podunk town in America, and I'd be stuck somewhere where nobody knew where I was. And it's like, I just didn't want to be in that situation.
But weren't you worried if you saw the FBI or whoever taking down all these like foreign crime syndicates?
Yeah.
Like,
I was just that cocky. Like, I just felt like I could get away with it, Like I read, about, online security, about, being anonymous online, about hiding your IP address, about using a VPN, never connect to any of these forums from your home ISP address. Always go to like and then it got to the point to where I would stop using like internet cafes and like Borders books, because they had cameras. So what I did is I figured out how to hack people's Wi-Fi, home Wi-Fi. I get this giant Wi-Fi antenna, and I would drive around with this giant Wi-Fi antenna on top of my car. And I had a program that would basically run. If there was like a certain security protocol for like a Wi-Fi address, I had like this program I could run that would just cycle through, and would basically, after like 15 or 20 minutes, I could gain access to their Wi-Fi, and then I would just use other people's Wi-Fi address to then gain access to the carding forums and conduct my business. Yeah.
That seems like a lot of work to not actually,
It is, but the payoff at the end was definitely worth it. So like I said, I went down this rabbit hole, and once I figured out how to make these cards, I contacted all the administrators of all the boards and was like, listen, I want to vend. I want to be a vendor. I want to vend plastic, So then I had to send each administrator, I had to send them, like pieces of plastic so that they could see what I was making, so that they could allow me to vend on the board. So then I got vendor status on these boards, and I started paying for like banner ads. So you would go to the like you would like their homepage, where it's like a Reddit page, and you see all these different threads of like crime or whatever, and across there would be banner ads for all the vendors, and like one of mine, like my banner ad would show up like every 15 seconds with my ICQ. Now ICQ was like this chat, like this encrypted chat, kind of like Telegram is now, but this is pre-Telegram, pre all that. So you have ICQ, and they would just contact you through ICQ, and then tell you how many cards they wanted. They would either Western Union me or...
So were most people buying one at a time, or like 100 at a time?
So I didn't nickel and dime. I did $1,000 minimum order. And for $1,000, you got 100 credit or debit cards. And then I wouldn't give you 100 driver's licenses, but I would work with you on the ID. So I wouldn't print 100, but I would give you...
Because you need the ID to match the card.
Yeah. Yeah, so you would get 100 credit or debit cards, and then plus the IDs for $1,000.
So you're selling like a little wannabe fraud... You're selling like a kit, like
Yeah.
ID, credit card,
Yep.
anything else they need?
Blank plastic, ID, credit card, and I also did documents. So I did birth certificates, social security cards. I did proof of income. I would do bank statements. So I had this whole other side, like fraudulent document side, because it's all Photoshop, dude. It's like, to me, it was super simple. Like I could knock out a birth certificate in 5 or 10 minutes. I was doing high school diplomas. I was doing college diplomas. I was doing, like I said, birth certificates, social security cards. Somebody would need to move into an apartment and they were like a drug dealer. Like I would get a bank statements for them. I would get pay stubs. I would make all their pay stubs, the proof of employment. I would do all this paperwork for them, so they were able to go and rent an apartment and lease a car and do all this stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So then, like I said, I started vending on these boards.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, I started doing very well, actually. Like I said, there was just a vacuum. There was just this empty space left in the marketplace. And my customer service was so impeccable. Like I would sleep with my laptop next to the bed open on full volume, because a lot of these people that we're dealing with were 12 hours ahead of us, we are over here. So I had to be up at all hours of the night. So if one of my, something got caught at customs, and my customer contacted me, was like, listen, this is in customs, and I could verify that it never left customs, then I would have to wake up in the middle of the night. I'd have to make 500 cards. I'd have to fucking package them all up, get them in the mail the next day. What happens
if it gets caught at customs? Do they track it back to you or what?
Well, see, what I was doing is I always wore gloves, so I would never leave my fingerprints on any of the cards. I set up a legitimate business. I got an LLC, a business account, where it was called Rex's Refurbished Computer Equipment. So I would buy in bulk from eBay. I would buy computer towers, routers, all kinds of little pieces of computer equipment. I would take out the insides, and I would put the debit cards on the inside, put it back together, put it in the packaging, vacuum seal the packaging, and I would send it out with a BOL, a bill of lading.
Oh, you even vacuum sealed it. So it looks like a new product.
Yeah, and it was coming from a legitimate company. So I had an LLC registered for the company. I had a legitimate phone number you could call. I built a website for the company. And I would put the cards inside these little computer equipment, and that's how I was mailing it all around the world. And it was just coming from a legitimate company.
And did it ever get caught?
Once in a while. Yeah, once in a while. One out of every maybe 25 would get nabbed in customs.
But don't they call up Rex and be like, yo, what's...
Yeah, I mean, I had a HQ handling all of my phone calls. There's in America, you've got an HQ. You can So there's an office you can pay monthly.
Yeah.
They'll accept mail for you. They'll answer your phone calls. They'll take messages. And I would just have everything forwarded. I would have somebody answering the phone, this is Rex's Refurbished Computer Equipment. Okay, let me take a message. And they're like, oh, let me give you an email. But I never got.
Really?
Yeah, nothing ever came back. Yeah. And like I said, maybe 1 out of every 25 would stop at customs. Yeah. So I never had any problems. That's not how I got caught. You know what I mean? So
you would think they catch 1, they catch 2, they log these, and they say, "Oh, this guy is clearly an operation."
Yeah. That was just never how. And I don't. Once I got my discovery, I figured out that the Secret Service was ordering cards from me on a regular basis, trying to figure out where I was, and that never caught me. Because what I would do is I would package it up, and I would just take it to a UPS store.
Where are you at this time?
South Florida, Miami. Okay. Yeah, I'm in Miami. So I take the package to the UPS store. I set it on the counter. I said, this needs to go out, and you pay them $5. They scan it. It goes to the outgoing mail.
But can't the Secret Service figure out, okay, the packages are coming from this UPS store?
I would use different ones. So if you put UPS store in your GPS in Miami, there's hundreds. And I never had to use the same one.
But they can never go back and be like, when was this package shipped, and check the cameras or something like that?
Sure, they can. But they got some kid just walking in, handing it to the counter, and then it going out. I never parked my car in the parking lot so they could get the license plate or anything like that. I would park, down the street and walk. So, it was easy to get these packages out of the country.
And for our non-American viewers, the U.S. Secret Service, most people know from protecting the president.
But they also handle all of the financial crimes in the U.S. So anything that's got anything to do with currency, bank,
and it's
bank
a big
fraud,
deal.
Money laundering, it's the United States Secret Service. They handle all the financial crimes in the U.S. Yeah. You'd think it's the FBI, but it's not. It's the Secret Service.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So now you're full steam ahead.
I'm cranking out cards now. At the very pinnacle of what I deemed to be my success, I was doing maybe 100 orders a month, 100 plus orders a month.
At $1,000 each?
At $1,000 each. So I was doing $100,000 a month in business. Yeah.
Did it
in
ever
sales.
occur to you though? It's like, I don't need $100,000 a month. Like if I made $10,000 a month, it'd be a lot less risk and I'd still be doing good.
I was so cocky at this point. In my mind, I just alleviated all the risk out of the operation. Because listen, nobody knew what I was doing. I was doing everything on my own, by myself. I had nobody working with me. Like it wasn't like I had, 2 or 3 buddies. I was doing everything on my own. Like I didn't tell anybody what I was doing, because I grew up not trusting
Yeah, did
people.
your family or anyone know?
Nobody. My wife at the time knew what I was doing. And then she was the only one, so yeah, I was just like, and like I said, I was doing $100,000 a month in orders. Sometime, not every month. I didn't do 100 orders every month, but on average, it's about 80 to 100 orders a month.
And were you shipping only to the U.S. or internationally?
All over the place. Yeah, I was shipping the United States, Russia, South America, everywhere.
Where are like the most scammers from?
Eastern Europe. That's where all my cards were. The bulk of all my cards were going to Eastern Europe. Yeah, and I later found out that I was distributing fraudulent credit cards to the Russian mob. Like I had a guy that I was going through who was a buffer I wasn't dealing directly with the Russian mob, but there was a buffer, like a guy I was going through they were buying like 20,000 cards a month or something like that, at least on average every month, like 10, 15, 20,000 cards a month. Yeah.
So
I was doing all right at the like I said, at the very pinnacle.
Like how long from when you started this Rex's whatever card operation?
Yeah.
How long did this thing last?
05 to 09.
Oh, so 4 years.
4 years.
So we're talking like millions of dollars?
Oh, I did roughly $3.8 to $4.2 million in sales over the course of 4 years. Yep.
Okay. And then what made you stop? I have a feeling, but what made you stop?
Oh, I got caught. Yeah. So I ended up going from Florida to South Carolina. My wife at the time was from South Carolina, and we had a son. We just had a baby. We had a son at this time, and her family didn't really know my son, so she wanted to move to South Carolina. And I was like, well, I can do this wherever I'm at. I'm going to keep the condo here in Miami, but we can go to South Carolina. I'll get a townhouse in South Carolina. I'm going to get tons of money, so it doesn't really matter where I'm at. Dude, we would go to South Carolina, and there was 2 UPS stores. 2. Not hundreds, 2. So I start using the same 2 UPS stores to send out all my packages from. Just being ignorant, not because I'm so comfortable at this point. I'm not thinking of anything. The old man at the UPS store cut one of my packages open, went in
because he got suspicious.
I thought I was selling. I thought I was moving drugs. I think he thought I was sending out drugs from his. And the old man that worked at the I didn't know he was the owner because they're franchise. So the guy running the counter, the older guy, he was the fucking owner of the place, and I had no idea.
So he cares too much.
Yeah, it's his business.
Yeah, okay.
He has way too much to lose if drug. So yeah, he cut open one of my packages. He went in my box. He opened it. He found what I was sending out. He contacted the Postmaster General. The Postmaster General contacted the Secret Service, and they set up a sting on me. And I show up to the UPS store one day. They had been waiting there every day for a week from open to close. The Secret Service that were waiting 5 days for me. And I show up there to pick up a package one day, and they got me. Yeah, and this was July of 2009.
When they get you, though, do they know what they have, or do they just think, oh, because how old were you at this point?
24.
So they just think, oh, I have this young guy who's...
Well, yeah, they didn't know anything at this point. They knew that I was sending out cards, but they didn't know if I was part of like a larger organization, if I was doing it on my own, or like they had no idea of anything at this point. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know anything. So they get me at the UPS store. They fingerprint me in the back of the UPS store. They make me sign a bunch of paperwork. They put me in their car. They drive me to my condo. I had to let them search my condo. They took everything, all the computers, the printers, everything. They seized everything, and they didn't take me to jail. I didn't go to jail.
Why?
I don't know. They didn't arrest me. They were like, you need to come. You're gonna have a court date. Obviously, you're gonna have to deal with this. But they just chose not to arrest me. I don't know why. I didn't ask. They just didn't arrest me. They were like, you need to be at this address on this date, and you're gonna have to give a statement. We're gonna ask you questions. And it was like 2 weeks from the date that actually happened. I had to go to the Secret Service headquarters in Columbia, South Carolina. And it was like a week or two later. And I remember I walk into this room, and it's this long table, and there's probably 15 guys sitting around this table. And these aren't young guys. These are older guys. These are like seasoned guys.
But do you think, oh, maybe I should get a lawyer? Or...
I didn't know what to do. I'm thinking they're just going to ask me some questions. And if I'm going to jail, I'm going to jail. Like there's nothing I can do about it. Like I'm screwed at this point, you know? I had a little bit of money put up on the side, obviously. And I had like a car and a passport and all. Cause like, I'm thinking if I can just get out of this situation,
Thailand,
I'm gone. No, and I wasn't even thinking about Southeast Asia at this time.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't even thinking about fleeing the country or anything. I was thinking like Mexico, South America at this time. So I go down to the meeting and I walk into this room. And what happened was they flew people out from Washington, D.C., from like the financial crimes division. They flew people in from Vegas. They flew people in from California. Like they flew people in from all over the United States for this meeting. And I walk into the room and in the middle of the table, they had screenshots of everything I had been doing online over the past like 2 years. So like any post that I had posted on these carding forums.
Oh, because they had seized your computer and everything.
And they made me give them all my passwords. So they went on and they had screenshots set out on the middle of the table of everything I had been doing online. Like all the posts I had made on the forums. Anytime I had commented under anything, they found it and there were screenshots. And they didn't even say anything about it. They just let it. It was just there so that they knew. So they were letting me know. Yeah. They were letting me know that they know. You know what I mean? So in case I try to BS them. But of course I did. I minimized everything all the way down. Like, yeah, I've only been doing this a few months. They're like, all right, well, we know that's a lie because this post right here is from 2 years ago. Then I'm like, yeah, I was on the forums, but I wasn't vending. Like, you could see I wasn't vending. I was like, yeah, I was, actively participating in the forums, trying to learn. And so I minimized everything. I was there for like 6.5 hours and they just kept grilling me and kept asking me the same questions over and over again, trying to get me to give them different answers. And I was completely aware of what they were doing at the time. And so I just sat there, I minimized. I was like, yeah, I've only been doing this a few months. I'm not working with anybody. You guys got all of the equipment. There's no other, labs. And that was it. They're like, you're going to have a court date. So, you'll get a court date in the mail. And I walked out of there. I walked out of the Secret Service headquarters. And when you walked out,
what were you thinking?
Dude, my head was spinning. You know what? Because I just don't know. Like, I don't know how much time I'm going to get. I don't know, like, the seriousness of what I'm involved in. Like, I don't know when I'm going to have a court date. Is it going to be a year from now? Is it going to be 5 years from now? Like, I just didn't know. I had no idea. So I just left. And then I go back home and, like, my wife leaves me because she's thinking now that she's going to get in trouble and, like, they're going to take my son because she knew what I was doing. So she leaves me. You know what I mean? She takes my son and leaves. So it's just like, now what do I do? So I went back to Miami from South Carolina. I left and went back.
Did they tell you can't leave the state or anything like that?
No. They didn't tell me I couldn't leave or nothing.
So you weren't doing anything illegal. You were just like...
Yeah, they were like, they didn't tell me anything. They were just like, you're going to have a court date. So you're going to get something in the mail. You're going to have to go to court and you're going to have to deal with this at some point in time. I'm like, okay, well, it is what it is, And like I said, like my wife leaves me. So I have no business in South Carolina. I need to get back to Miami so I can figure out how to make some more money because they just took all my equipment. I have to start all over again. But it's like I didn't even know, like I didn't know what to do at this point. Because I'm like, oh, do I get back on the forums? If I do, they're gonna know because they have all of my logins. So it's not like I can log back in and just start, vending again. So I was just at this like crossroad, like I just didn't know what to do, and I had maybe like a $250,000 or something at this time, like that I had access to, because when they took my computers and all of my equipment, I had all of my bank accounts were on my hard drives. All of the names that I had the bank accounts set up in, like the social security numbers and date of births, all that information was on the hard drives, on the computers, on the laptops that they took. So like I lost access to probably $3 or $4 million at this point in time. I only had the little bit of money that I had set aside, hidden.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I was cooked.
But did it occur to you like, okay, well, I messed up. Maybe I should just take the high road now?
No, that was never even a part of my thought process. No, never. No.
Hey guys, I wanted to jump in really quick and let you know that if you've been thinking about learning Thai this year, or maybe you just want to get a little better, I've got a great option for you to check out. I spoke to my friend Chris from Retired Working For You, and he recently started the Thai Language Challenge. It blends the benefits of learning online at your own pace with a real-life, in-person classroom environment. And yeah, you even get a real-life teacher, Krufa, who's very fun and very easy to learn from. There are a few different packages available, so whether you just want to learn the basics for your first trip to Thailand, or if you really want to be able to have a full-blown conversation in Thai, check out what they have at the link below. And they were nice enough to give our subscribers a free flashcard game to learn the 100 must-know Thai words. All the information is in the link below. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Like I said, because I just didn't have the tools to be able to think that way. You know, so what I do, I just dug myself a deeper hole.
Okay.
You know, I just went back to Miami and I tried to get by on the money. It was quite a bit of money, so I didn't really have to worry about money, but it was like, what do I do now? You know, like I'm not going to get a regular job.
So how long did it take between this Secret Service meeting until you were printing again?
About 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. It was about 6 months.
Well, was that because it took you time to acquire all the equipment again?
No, I had money to buy the equipment right away.
Just weren't sure if
I just didn't know what to do. Like, so I'm like, you know, I was just like, I'm going to give it 6 months to cool off. I'm going to go back to Miami. I'm going to hide somewhere in Miami. Because I'm paranoid at this time. Like, your brain's just going in loops. I don't know if they're tapping my phones. I'm thinking they're following me around. Like, you just get really, really paranoid. Then after a while, I realized that these guys, they're not tapping my phones. They don't have guys posted outside my house watching me. They don't have satellites following me around. Like, I'm not very high on their list of things to do. I haven't received anything in the mail yet. So then me and just the way my brain operates, I'm like, well, let's go again. Let's gear up for another run.
It again.
Yeah. Let's gear up for another run. And I just bought more equipment and I started printing and I just went right back into it once I got back into Miami. And I ended up making like another $1.5 million over the next probably 9 or 10 months until they picked me up.
How did they get you the second time?
I was just driving and I got pulled over. And they were like, you have a federal felony warrant out for your arrest. You know that, right? And I'm like, no, I had no idea. Yeah, so they took me to jail and then they let me out on a personal
But why
bond.
did you have the warrant?
Apparently they sent me something in the mail somewhere for a court date and I just never got it. You know, so they just put a warrant out for my arrest. Yeah, so I got picked up on a federal felony warrant and, you know, just started going to court and started going through like the whole process of everything, you know, and they let me back out on a personal bond like right away. So like, you know, now I got to deal with this, like going to like something called pretrial services release where I got to like call the phone number every day and see if I got to take a drug test and I got to report. It's like being on probation without even being sentenced yet. It was malarkey. I hated it. And I ended up like violating that and going on the run and they had to like catch me and then extradite me from Florida to South Carolina. And that was like a whole freaking thing. And yeah, it was a mess, dude. It was a nightmare, absolute nightmare.
So did you eventually have your day in court?
I did, yeah. I went to court. The eventual outcome was the guy at the UPS store wasn't supposed to open my package, period. He was supposed to contact the Postmaster General, and the Postmaster General is the only one with authority to open sealed mail with the postage has already been paid for. So they had
even though it's UPS and not U.S. Postal Service?
Yes, because I had already paid in the package was sealed because I was using something called Pitney Bowes for all of my shipping. I had like I had a, what do they call it? I had a postage scale and everything at home hooked up to the software. And I would prepay for everything. So, yeah, where were we at?
You said you went to court.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I'm just thinking, how could you possibly get out of this?
So the guy wasn't supposed to open my mail. The Postmaster General is the only one with authority to open sealed mail. So when we went to court, they had to get rid of the manufacturing of a fraudulent transaction device. They had to get rid of the sales and transportation of a fraudulent transaction device. They had to get rid of the mail fraud. They had to get rid of the wire fraud. They had to get rid of all that. The only thing they could charge me with was the aggravated identity theft, because I did have my picture on someone else's driver's license when I went to open the box at the UPS store. Because obviously I'm not going to use my own information. So I had to steal somebody's identity because I had to have their social security number and date of birth and all that. So the only thing they could hit me with was the aggravated identity theft, which carried a mandatory minimum of 24 months. Whereas the first offer they came with was 115 months. It's like 15 years in prison, federal prison, was the first offer they came with. And then me and my lawyer, which, thank God I had a really good lawyer, we went through my discovery and we figured out that the old man wasn't supposed to open my packages. And she went straight to the prosecutor and they worked out a deal for me. And also, I had never really been in trouble up to this point. I mean, as a youth, but your juvenile stuff, once you turn 18, is sealed, and they can't look at any of that as an adult. So as an adult, I had never really been in trouble as an adult. I had no felonies or nothing like that as an adult. So like I had no criminal record. So it was like, and in the federal system in the United States, they have to sentence you by certain guidelines going according to the crime you committed, your criminal record. It puts you in these categories, and each category carries like a sentencing guideline for that category, how they can sentence you. So they could only give me 24 months. Wow. And that's what I ended up serving. I ended up serving a little bit more. It's like 3 years I ended up doing all together. Yeah, so I got out literally on my 30th birthday, February of 2015. Yeah, my 30th birthday.
And when you got out this time,
did
you say, I'm going to keep it straight and narrow?
No, I went back.
Again?
Yeah, I went back again.
Oh my God.
So I get out. I have no safety net when I get out of prison. Like I have nobody helping me with money or food or a place to live or any of that.
How does that work when you just let out of prison and then...
You go to like a halfway house and they give you 6 months at the halfway house to work and save money. And that's basically, for people that don't have anything or anybody to help them, that's all you get really. That's the best they can do for you.
I imagine it's really hard to get a job if you're a felon.
Impossible to get a good job unless you have like a specific field that you specialize in. That you know what I mean. Like you can like go and get a job. Like if you're just like a manual labor guy with no work history or like specialized thing that you're really good at, you're screwed. You're bagging groceries or you're cleaning up garbage on a construction site. It's really difficult. So when I get out, I have no safety net when I get out of prison, like nothing. I got out and I had nobody helping me. My wife that I was married to when I went into prison, she had some guy living with her at her mom and dad's house and she was pregnant. So it was like, okay, well that's gone. Like I have no family now. And I was, working at like a frozen food warehouse, like overnight shift. So I was working from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. at like on a frozen food warehouse. It was like -6 degrees in the warehouse. And I'm stacking frozen meat, and I got to put on like a snowsuit and glove. And this is in Miami.
So this life wasn't for you.
Dude, I was like stressing, dude. I was stressing hardcore. And then like I get out of the halfway house, and I ran into somebody that like knew what I was doing before, and then they were like, "Listen, I'll buy the equipment if you show me how to use it," kind of deal. And I just was like, I seen that as an opportunity to not really get directly involved and like be like myself running the operation, but I seen it as a way to like, okay, I'll just tell him what to buy, he'll buy it.
Yeah, what's the legality of that? If you give someone information like that,
it's conspiracy. I mean, I'm sure they can get you on conspiracy to commit fraud or conspiracy to commit, grand larceny, whatever. But at this point, I didn't give a shit. I'm making $9 an hour, $9.50 an hour, and I'm living in an apartment about the size of this little living room right here, this little room. And it was just like, I was stressing, man. I was waking up at 3:00 in the morning and I'd have to walk a mile and catch a train an hour and then catch a bus another hour to work in a frozen food warehouse. And then like I'd get off work and the buses wouldn't be running. So I'd have to walk like 4 or 5 miles to the line that is running, that runs once an hour, to get back downtown Miami, to walk 4 miles back to this little tiny room I was living in. I was just like, dude, after doing that for a few months, I was at wit's end. Like I was depressed. I'd never had any money for food. I was just like, I'm over it. And right at that time, like I just ran into Buddy and he was like, I'll buy the stuff if you... And that went south real fast because like some stuff got caught in customs. So I was having some holograms sent over from China. I had like a supplier in China that I was having them make the holograms for the Visa and MasterCards. As well as like if you look at the state driver's license for any state, there's like a multi-spec hologram on it. Each state's different. So I was making those and having those sent over, and they got caught in customs. And then for whatever reason, the guy that I was working with, I told him not to send anything to my house, and sure enough, he had the holograms mailed because we didn't want the holograms to get lost because they were expensive and we really needed them. Got caught in customs and two DHL drivers showed up at my door one day to deliver the package, which really they were the Miami Financial Crimes Division.
2 drivers show up to deliver an envelope.
To deliver an envelope. I looked at my peephole and there's 2 DHL drivers there with a little envelope. I'm like, I already knew what time it was. And so, yeah, I got caught again and I feel really bad about this, but I threw Jose under the bus. I just threw him straight under the bus and ratted him out because I didn't really know this guy. And I'm thinking like, dude, I just got out. Like, I'm not going back. Like, I am not.
Yeah, are you on probation?
Oh, I'm on federal felony probation. Like, I'm screwed. Like, if I catch another charge, I am.
You're on probation. You've got holograms from China showing up to your house.
I'm done. I'm cooked.
Yeah.
So the cops were there, and then listen, right when they were there, I almost had these dummies. Like, I almost had them because I had nothing in my apartment. Like, there was nothing they could do. I'm like, my name wasn't on the package.
Because you're not even committing. No. You're not even making stuff now.
I had nothing at my apartment. Like everything was set up somewhere else.
Well, are you physically making stuff, or did you just
not at my condo?
Okay, but you're helping this other guy.
Yeah. All the equipment was set up somewhere else, and we were printing and making plastic at his house. And I almost had these guys. Like I just denied. Like this isn't my package. You know what I mean? Like I have no idea why this is coming to my apartment.
Whose name was on the package?
I don't remember the name. I think it was like Ryan Pearson. I think
like a made up name.
Yeah, it was a made up name. Yeah. And I swear to God, dude, this must have been the worst day of my life. Right when these guys were there and they were getting ready to let me go, a UPS driver shows up with a giant box, and it's an embossing and tipping machine, right? Like a $7,500. It's a giant box. He had to bring it in a dolly. And so the cops went out there and talked to him, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I've delivered several packages here, and he signed for them." And right there, I was fucked. I was screwed right then and there. So they came back in there like, "Okay, where's the lab?" They're like, "We know you've been signing for these packages. We know that you know." And right there, I was done. I was cooked. And literally right then, the dude calls me on my phone. The guy that I was working with, Jose, he calls me on my phone, and they were holding my phone, and they just picked it up.
They answered the phone?
They answered the phone. Because they were like, they were kind of talking to me like about who's Jose and this and that and the other. I'm like, yeah, I was just playing stupid. And then Jose calls my phone. So they pick it up. And he was like, I've been tracking the package. He's like, I just seen you got it delivered. He's like, do you want to bring it? Do you want to meet me with the package? I'm like, nah, I don't think I really can. And they were nodding. Yeah. I was like, oh, dude, now I'm in it. Now I'm up to my neck.
You're an informant.
Dude, now I'm up to my neck in it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, dude, it's like, and I'm thinking like, so I just threw Jose under the bus. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't give a fuck about being called like a snitch or a rat or whatever. Like, I'm not a gangster. I'm not a gangbanger. I don't live by the street code. Like, I don't care. Like
at this point, are you thinking maybe they'll let me go?
Yes.
If I give them the bigger.
And they did. Mm-hmm. And they did. Like, so I threw Jose under the bus. They put a listening device on me. It was like a little thing I had to put in my pocket. I had to put the printer in the trunk of my car. I had to go meet Jose in a parking lot. They followed me, and they like in the parking lot sat. They recorded the whole. I feel bad, dude. I feel like really bad for all of this because like I would never set anybody up like and work with the police, but it was like, dude, I just got out. Like I've been out like a month or two. You know what I mean? Like I just did 3 years in federal prison. Dude, I don't want to go back.
Where's Jose now?
What's that?
Where is Jose right now?
You know what? I talked to him since all of this. Like I contacted, like I think he's seen me on a podcast telling this story, and he reached out, and he's not even mad about it. He's like, yeah, I probably would have done the same thing in your position. But no, I had to throw him under the bus, dude. I had to. So yeah, they went to his house. They raided his house. They found all of the equipment. And so they left me in a parking lot with another agent, and they called. They're like, oh, okay, he can go. And I just took off.
Oh, they just let you?
But they were like, we're going to have to contact your probation officer because, you know, obviously we're required by law to contact your probation officer and let her know what happened. So I just took off. Like I just stopped. I just went back home. I packed my bags and I drove straight to the airport. I left my car at the airport and I flew to Detroit. And I just never went back to Florida. And I stopped reporting for federal probation. And of course I had a warrant put out for my arrest. And I ended up out in Nebraska. Actually, out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere in Nebraska, working at like a hydraulic shop as like a mechanic. You know what I mean? Just in a cornfield somewhere. And dude, some shit happened out there, and just by, you know, somebody, like some stuff happened that didn't even have anything to do with me. And the cops came around to like ask me a question about it, and they ran my name, and I had a warrant out for my arrest. So then I had to get extradited from Nebraska all the way back out to South Carolina, which took like 3 months. It was just like a horrible, horrible experience getting shipped around from prison to prison, jail to jail. Because they don't just fly you straight there. They don't just take you straight back to where you got to go to court. Like I got to sit, like they'll put you in a van, they'll drive you 2 states over, and I'll sit in that county jail for 2 weeks. until another van comes and gets you. And then they put me on something called Con Air. I don't know if you've
I
heard.
saw the movie.
Nicolas Cage, John Cusack, John Malkovich. Where are they? Con Air. Directed by Simon West.
Yeah, it's not like the movie. It's like it's like a regular airplane. It's not like a big cargo plane like you see on the movie. It's like a regular airplane, except for it's all white and it's got like numbers on the back. But they put me on Con Air and they flew me to Oklahoma, and I had to go through like this big prison in Oklahoma and get processed in and get shipped back to South Carolina. So I get back to South Carolina and I go in front of my judge, and I thought for sure my violation was going to be because of all that. These motherfuckers never even called my probation officer. They never contacted her.
So you didn't need to run.
No, I didn't need to run. I got scared and took off and violated myself on probation. Yeah, but you know what? It was a blessing in disguise because I had 5 years of paper of federal probation. I went in front of my judge on the violation, and she's like, you know what? You're just not supervisable. She's like, we've had to extradite you from different parts of the country multiple times. She's like, you just are not supervisable, so I'm going to give you 9 months for this violation, and we're going to go ahead and terminate your paper.
So you're saying you have to go back to prison for 9 months, and then after that
they terminated everything. They terminated everything. I was free, done. No federal probation, no nothing. And this was like November of 2016. I got out. Yeah.
Wow.
I've been a free man ever since. Yeah, no more fraud, no more credit cards, no more no more shit. I just been like, this is it for me. This is like I have to do right now. And I made the decision mentally to not commit fraud anymore, obviously.
And when you got out of prison the last time, where did you choose to live?
California. Yeah. I mean, it's because I didn't know anybody there. I knew that if I went back to Miami that I was somehow going to get roped into some kind of fraudulent activity, because that's just what everybody does in Miami. Everybody's frauding it up down there, whether it's credit card fraud or Medicare fraud or bank fraud or running tax scams or running real estate scams. Everybody's scamming. Miami's one of the fakest cities you'll ever live in. Everybody wants to Rolex and they want to drive the Lamborghini, but you go to their house and they're sitting on lawn furniture. Like, I've literally gone home from the club with guys who are driving Lambos, and you get in they're living in empty houses with no furniture in it. Like, it's crazy. Like, Miami's just nuts. So I went to California, and I got a job. Like, I'm a tattooer. I've been tattooing since like 2001, 2002. I've been tattooing pretty much my whole life. So I went out there and I got a job tattooing right away, and I ended up getting a job with Tesla. I went and worked for Tesla out of Fremont, California, where they actually manufacture the vehicles. A friend of mine got me a job. I was making like $27 an hour, like straight out of the gate at Tesla. I was in the logistics. I wasn't like running the joint. I was just on the logistics team. I was pretty much just making sure the parts got from the warehouses to the line to, make sure everything worked cohesively. Yeah. And then I was eventually promoted to coordinator. I was what was my title? Shipping coordinator. I went from like driving forklifts and unloading the parts out of the trucks to actually like supervising the people who unloaded the trucks with the forklifts and shit like that. And then I hurt my back, and then I was out on disability, and then like COVID happened, and like
California shut down.
Dude, California
was the worst in the U.S. when it came to
I had to leave California because at this time I owned my own tattoo shop in California. I owned my own tattoo studio, and like, dude, the owner of the property was like this super liberal, like, Democrat, left wing weirdo, and like, so like we weren't open, but I was still doing like private. Like, I would go and I would just have people, and I would lock the door and I would do the tattoo. Dude, he found out and he came and put chains on the padlocks on the doors of the business. So yeah, I had to leave California during COVID, and I went out to Phoenix, Arizona. And this is 2020. And this is when my buddy Matthew Cox, that I met in federal prison, he helped me write my memoir in federal prison that I actually published when I got out of federal prison on Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. It's called Bent. The story of how a homeless teen became the cyber world's underground credit card fraudster. They call me the Dark Lord of Miami. That's what they call me online. I'm pretty, I hate to use the word famous because I cringe every time I say that, but it's like, you can Google me. Like everybody back home knows who I am. Like, I've done hundreds of podcasts.
Do you think in Thailand has the same thing as you did before?
The credit card fraud?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. It's being done everywhere. Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's changed a lot over the years, I'm sure, over the past 25 years. But yeah.
I'm curious that in Thailand, are they gonna like let someone go easy like
Well, I think
US?
they're really starting like to crack down on the fraud stuff out here in Thailand. You hear about it every day. Guys getting caught for like 2 million baht, 5 million baht frauds and all that stuff. But no, yeah, to go back, I was talking to my buddy Matthew Cox, and he was like, dude, you have to start a podcast. You have to start a podcast. And so I went on the Concrete podcast. I flew out to Florida from Phoenix, and I did the Concrete podcast with Danny Jones. And that like went viral overnight. It got like almost within 2 or 3 days, it was like 500,000-600,000 views. I think it's almost at like 1 million now with the original first podcast I did. And then from that podcast, like I just started getting like everybody wanted me to come on their podcast and tell my story and just talk about it. So like every week I was in a different city, flying out and doing all these different podcasts all over the United States. I did like 15 or 20 of them. And then I bought a studio. Like I rented a studio. I didn't buy one. I rented a studio in Phoenix, and I set up a podcast studio, and I just started talking about my story, and I started just interviewing other people, like other fraudsters and like interesting people, kind of like what you do. And I did that for like two years or something like that out of Phoenix, while I was still tattooing at the same time, because I'm not making any, how the YouTube,
I know.
Dude, the YouTube grind is the first 2-3 years, you're not making any money at all. You're pouring money into it, and you're not making any money. So I just started tattooing and, just doing the interviews and just doing the YouTube grind, the YouTube hustle. And I've been doing that for like the past 4.5, 5 years. Yeah.
So what's funny about like us meeting is that when I first saw you, I didn't know anything about your backstory.
Right.
Like I kind of got the hint from the interview that you had done some not great things.
I got a sketchy past.
Yeah, but I didn't know the specifics of it. But what I connected with was you were talking kind of a lot about, America's not what it used to be. The opportunities aren't necessarily here for everyone. And more so that just like the quality of life over in Southeast Asia or other places is just so vastly different. It could be so much better.
Yeah.
Why am I going to stay here and, pay whatever for rent to live in some place that I don't really like and that whole thing. So how did you go from all of this to kind of find out about Asia or Thailand or that kind of thing?
Right. So having to walk the straight and narrow and make legitimate money in the United States, I just wasn't used to, and I value my independence, I think over anything else. Like my ability to live independently, not live with 5 people in a house. I want to live by myself, pay my own. It just became, as after 2020, after COVID, it's impossible. Like unless you have some kind of like safety net or like you have some kind of specialized career field, like where you have like a master's degree in whatever, and your earning potential is, but I don't have that. Like I'm a tattoo artist. I've been a pirate my whole life. I've been living on the streets, running scams. Like I can't go work at Charles Schwab. I can't go get a Bank of America job. I can't really get any kind of corporate jobs because of my aesthetic. I speak just fine. I feel like I carry myself in a respectable manner. I speak, proper English, but it's like, just because of my aesthetic, it really limits me from what I'm able to do. It limits my earning potential in the United States. And so I just started researching, where does my money go the furthest, And my uncle has been living in back and forth from the Philippines to the United States my whole life, and I've always heard him talk about Southeast Asia and how relatively inexpensive it is as opposed to the United States. So that seed had been planted 25 years previous. So then I just kind of started doing my research, and the harder and harder it became for me to become independent in the United States. Like, dude, a 1-bedroom apartment's $1,800 on average in the United States.
Well, I mean, I'm from Boston. That's a deal in Boston. It's like, it's crazy.
$1,800, dude. And that's just for like a normal, that's not anything nice. And sometimes that's in the ghetto. It's like the slum, and it's just like, man, I don't know how I can make all this money every month. And it just became this thing where it's just like, dude, I got to jump out of bed in the morning like the house is on fire with all of this kind of stress and anxiety. Like I have to make $400 today. Like if I don't make $400 today and $400 tomorrow and $400 the next day, dude, I'm going to be homeless at the end of the month. So that just kind of sent my brain into like this tailspin of like, you know, there has to be some other way. There has to be a better way for me to live independently, you know, and unfortunately I can't do it in the United States, you know?
So did you just like Google whatever, or did something
YouTube.
pop up?
Yeah, I hopped on YouTube, and I think one of the very first channels I started watching was Keys. And I believe you had him on the podcast. Keys.
Didn't have him on the podcast, but I have met him.
No, I didn't see you guys on a podcast together.
No.
Okay, I'm mistaken. Then I misspoke. I thought for sure Keys did your podcast, but I started watching his stuff in the beginning, kind of his cost of living and abroad and all that. And I think he was doing videos in like Korea. He was in like South Korea or something like that before. And then I started watching just other videos on like the cost of living in Southeast Asia, and like, you know, and then I started researching like currency conversions and like how far our money went, and I was just like, oh my God.
The thing that's interesting about Thailand is it's definitely not the cheapest place in the region.
No,
but
Vietnam, right? I think.
I mean, I don't know, but
Never
I'm
lived
sure
there.
I'm sure probably Vietnam, Cambodia, they're all probably going to be cheaper than
Right,
Thailand.
yeah.
But I think the infrastructure, the quality of life in Thailand, is so high, like what you get for your money is so good.
Yes. Yeah, the value of what you get for your dollar here, the quality of life here in Thailand is amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. And I've only been here like a month.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
so
when I came out here, I was just happy to walk outside every day.
Yeah.
I never had that
Yeah.
from, you know, back in the US.
Yeah.
So
Every aspect of life here is just, you know, night and day from back home.
you just arrived here. How long ago?
I got here December 3rd.
Okay. So you've been here
3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. Yeah.
and you had never been here before.
No.
You just decided to go.
Yeah, I just hopped on an airplane and came over.
Okay. Now I got to ask you
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
So in the interview I saw,
Mm-hmm.
tons of the comments were responding about your girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something about a Thai girlfriend or something.
So
what
I
happened?
went on Thai Friendly about 6 or 7 months before I planned on coming over.
First mistake.
And so I wanted to see what the dating pool was like over here,
Okay.
because you hear all these stories about, you know, how good it is, and how about, you know, it's the dating scene is just so vastly different, and the women are different, you know, and then you learn about the bar girls and that whole scene, and it's like, I don't know anything. Like,
Yeah.
I'm completely green. I have absolutely no idea. So I get on Thai Friendly and I just start chatting girls up just to kind of get an idea of what the dating pool is like, you know, how the women are mentally, like what's their thought process, what are the things that they value in life, what do they talk about, like what do they do for fun. Like I wanted to kind of learn all of that before I got here so that I could hit the ground running and I didn't get jammed up. I started watching a YouTube channel called Thai Talk with Dan. I don't know if you're familiar or not.
I am. I actually.
I like Dan, man. I really like that guy.
At the very beginning of this,
Yeah.
I reached out to him.
Yeah.
But he never responded.
Really?
Yeah, maybe he didn't see it, so I'm not gonna.
He
I'm not gonna
probably
throw him under
didn't,
the bus. But
yeah.
But I wouldn't blame him if he didn't respond because you know.
Well, he's got a bunch of shit going on in his life too.
I don't know. I've seen it a few times, but
Yeah.
I don't know too much about him.
I watched all his religiously. I
yeah,
watched
but
his
let me give everyone, if you haven't seen his channel, Thai Talk with Dan. Dan.
Yeah.
Thai Talk with Dan. He reads stories from guys that have had issues with Thai ladies.
So
And it's always like the worst possible.
It is.
cases.
There's never any good ones. It's
Yeah.
always the worst of the worst of the worst, which, you know, really put me in a mind frame like, oh my God, like, do I want to go over here? Because it feels like every woman, they just want to take advantage of you. But that, you know, obviously that's a blanket statement. And I just from my interaction with people throughout my life, I understand that. What's the term I'm looking for here?
Like when you hear these stories.
Yeah.
Thailand has like this stereotype, right? It's like very common to hear some of these stories. And like I say it a lot on this podcast. These stories do happen. They're not made up.
Of course,
but
yeah.
I think they're such a small percentage, but they get echoed a lot.
They do, and they get pushed to the forefront because it's clickbaity.
Yeah,
and
it's juicy.
Yeah.
Like, people like it.
It's
yeah.
interesting.
But also
Yeah, yeah.
people like, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but because I was in this position too. When you first get here, you don't know anything. You're
Right.
a very easy target.
Oh yeah.
So it's like so different now. I can walk down the street and just by a girl's tattoos, I can infer something about maybe, you know, her whole deal.
Yeah.
If you're new here, you don't necessarily know the difference. And
a lot of these guys coming over here, I hate to say it, but they've never really had a lot of attention from
that's
women.
true.
And, you know, they're not used to, maybe they've never even been really with a pretty girl ever in their life. So they get taken advantage of real fast.
Real fast. I used to feel worse for these guys than I do now because I've seen with my own eyes. Some of these guys, they just refuse to see like the reality because I think they just are so afraid to lose.
They're living in their own. They're living in their own delusion because it feels good when you have a pretty girl like giving you like physical attention and like hanging on your every word and like they want to go out with you, they want to hang out with you. Dude, a lot of these guys have
Ern does that all the time to everyone.
What?
Yeah, a lot of these guys, they've never had that before.
Yeah.
Like even from like teenagers, they've never had it. So they get over here and it's just this overwhelming feeling of like being loved and like getting attention from women. And unfortunately, there are women here that prey on people like that and they take advantage. So Thai Talk with Dan kind of opened my eyes. So that's why I hopped on the Thai Friendly and, I started talking to this girl and, we talked every day, morning, calling in the morning, calling at night. And then I got over here and, we're still kind of hanging out every day, but it's just like.
She's from Bangkok?
How long ago?
We started talking in July of last year.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
She's from Bangkok?
Yeah, a little bit north of Bangkok. Yeah,
Okay.
the outskirts. And she's a school teacher. She works at the international school here. She speaks really good English. She's never like not a party girl. She never really went out to the clubs and bars. Like we were at Khao San when I got here. One drink, I had to carry her back to the hotel room. And she couldn't even finish it. Like she didn't finish her drink and she was cooked. So that kind of lets me know that she's not really a party girl. She's a good girl, and
So she's still around?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. See, I was afraid to ask because I wasn't sure if this had already turned into like some kind of disaster or something or what.
It's on its way to
Oh,
being that,
really?
yeah. And it's not her fault. It's my fault.
Well, let me help you with that.
Dude, it's not her fault. Really, dude, I shouldn't have made the commitment to this person before I came over here. Because now I'm here and it's just like, dude, before I came here, I was single for 8 years, like by myself on my own, like living on my own.
Really? 8 years?
8 years.
How'd that possible?
Yeah, no girlfriend for 8 years.
Now he's living half a kilometer from Soy Cowboy.
Yeah, and it's just like, dude, it's overwhelming here. And it's just like, dude, I don't know. Like, I feel really bad about the whole situation. Like, I feel like I let her on. It's like, oh, we're going to get married and all this shit. And now it's just like, I don't even want to. It's all bad right now, dude. And it's my fault. Like, it's 100% my fault. Yeah, it's my fault.
We get a bad boy in Bangkok.
Because now, like, I'm staying at her place and like, I just got my own place now and she thought she was coming to move with me. And I'm just like, no,
she thought she was gonna move in. So okay, so it's
dude,
interesting.
It's all bad, dude. Like I feel really bad, but it's just like. But see, here's the thing. I don't want to cheat on her, and I don't want to like do her wrong. So that's why I'm just like I have to like it's like I have to pull the Band-Aid off. It is what it is. Like you don't want to. I have to rip the Band-Aid off fast because I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy that's cheating on her and lying to her. Dude, that's just gonna make her feel worse. Dude, I have empathy. Believe it or not, I have a lot of empathy for other human beings.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I can't be mean or I'm not that
I'm
guy.
kind of laughing, but I 100%
Dude,
I 100% understand your predicament.
Dude.
And when you say she just thought she was going to move in, like here I've noticed, actually, you know who Ern over here met a guy and a week later was moving in. So,
Thai girls move fast. Yeah, they
it's
move
a thing.
fast. Yeah.
I've had to have conversations, with girls about that before.
No,
like,
but like since you talked to her since like last year, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe did you say something that make her like expect that okay if you're moving to Thailand and we're gonna be together?
We had plans of like
That's
being
why.
together. No, and I like I said, it's 100% my fault. Like, and now I got here and I'm just like overwhelmed with like the whole relationship thing,
It's just
and it's like there's girls everywhere, and it's just like.
Feelings.
Dude, I don't want to cheat. Like, I'm not a cheater. Like, I'm not. I can't do that. Like, I can't go and sleep with a girl and then come back home and like have to face her. Because that just makes me hurt, dude, on the inside. Because she's like, maybe if she was like a scumbag, but she's not. She's like a.
Well, you'll meet those too. Don't worry.
She's like a really good person, and that just makes it twice as bad. Because that just makes me feel twice as worse. So it's like I don't want to do her wrong.
I feel
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
you know the situation.
I get you. I think
I just feel really
I think
bad.
your point of view is right. I think you got to rip the Band-Aid off.
I have to, dude. Dude, I'm just like I'm sick about
So,
it.
like,
Like I'm literally sick about it.
Have you? So you're moved into your new place already, or no?
Tomorrow, I signed the lease and everything.
So you're
tomorrow.
still staying with her right now?
Yeah.
Oh,
We
wow.
I already had the conversation.
Good thing
with her
this is going
today.
to come out not soon.
I was going to tell you.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you, hold off for like a week. But yeah, no, I move in. I signed my lease and I move in tomorrow. So
Okay, cool. Have you been out? And you said you went to Khao San. Have you been anywhere
I've been
else?
to Khao San. I just did a week in Phuket. I flew down to Phuket and I did a week in Phuket. So I did like Patong, and I stayed in Old Town, and I stayed in Patong Beach. I did like the whole Phuket thing, and then came back up here.
Did you see a lot of your Eastern European friends down there?
Yeah, so I actually did an in-studio podcast with a former hacker who was like right around the same time so it's funny, I was on TV in Russia. They did a whole documentary on me, and I have a Russian clone. His name's Sergey Pavlovich. And they call him my Russian clone because me and him were doing the same exact things, except he was real big in Russia, I was real big in the United States. So they did a documentary on both of us where they interviewed me and they interviewed him, and this was years ago. And he reached out, and we've been talking on Instagram for years. So I ended up down there in Phuket, and he reached out. He's like, let's meet. So we met up in Phuket. We did an in-studio podcast in Phuket where I interviewed him for my channel, and he interviewed me for his channel. He wants me to team up and do a podcast with him. So I'll be flying down to Phuket once a month for about a week, and I'll be interviewing, other people from like carters, hackers, crime, like people that were like in our field of what we were doing 25 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah. There's a lot of Slavic, a lot of Russians, I'm Polish.
I can imagine.
I'm 100% Polish. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm 100% Polish. My mom and my dad are both Polacks.
You should meet bad guy Mark.
Yeah?
My friend.
Yeah.
We can mention his name on the...
Oh, yeah. Bad guy Mark.
Yeah.
So you can...
like a lot of Russians down there. And they kind of took me under their wing, and they want to like start this whole venture with me where hopefully I'll be flying down and doing podcasts down there and stuff.
So you're going to put the video of the podcast on your channel, or you're going to create a new one?
No. So the interview I did with him, I already put on my channel. It's up right now. Yeah. It's doing actually pretty well. It's at like 8,000 views, and it's still trending upwards. So it's doing pretty well. But no, yeah, me and him are going to start our own separate channel, and we're just going to interview, scumbags and hackers and carters and fraudsters.
You will
and
mostly focus on that
niche. That's going to be our niche. Yeah. But like I also want to start my own thing here in Bangkok. I want to do kind of like what you're doing, but I want to interview like expats, interesting people I meet here in Bangkok, other just, yeah. Long form content has always been kind of my niche. I've always been really good at it. I can sit and talk for hours and hours and hours. Like it doesn't. I never run out of things to say.
I know.
Yeah.
So you've only really you were in Phuket for a week. So you've only really been in Bangkok for like less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, and you know what? Every single day I'm up in the morning and I'm out.
Yeah.
And I'm because I'm doing vlogging now, which is.
And it's such a big city. It's
animal, yeah. So so I did Chinatown. I've rode the little river ferries up and down. I've done Khao San. I've been to all of the big malls. Yesterday,
Christmas.
I did a Christmas video. Yesterday, I started at Central World. I did their little Christmas display. I actually walked from Central World to One Bangkok, which was like 4 miles.
Wow.
I didn't think it was going to be that far of a walk, but I was just like, dude, it was gridlocked. The whole city was gridlocked yesterday.
Yeah.
I seen you were at Siam? Or no, you were at Central World.
I walked by Central World.
Yeah, I think I just missed you because when you posted to your stories at Central World, I just posted to my stories in Central World. And I seen your story. I was like, I just missed you. So then I walked from Central World to One Bangkok, and I did a vlog there, and then I went from One Bangkok to Siam Paragon, and I did their whole thing, and then back again. Yeah. So I'm learning the city. I've been on the MRT. I've been on the BTS. I've been scammed a couple times from the tuk-tuks. I did a whole video on that, which is it's like number 1 out of 10 right now. No, it is. And that's what I was like, I'm going to have to go out.
There's really no way around some of this stuff. You just gotta
learn it.
Yeah.
It's gotta happen to you a few times before you're like, okay, now I know.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Even Thai people got scammed. Like, we lived for so many years and still.
Yeah, so I got, I had to go out and get scammed. I've done the tuk-tuks. I've been all over the city.
Do you like going to bars or anything like that, or not really?
I don't really drink or anything like that. I quit drinking like 10 years ago, but I have had a couple drinks. I'm off the wagon. You know what I mean? Since I've been here, it is what it is. But no, I do like the club scene. I like the bar scene. Not really as like a regular thing, but I'm definitely, I'm going to check it out here and there for sure. Yeah, I know the nightlife here is unlike anything. But I'm from Miami.
Yeah.
So like the nightlife in Miami's, they go till 5 or 6 in the morning, and then you go from there to the strip club, and then you're there until 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
It's like crazy.
Oh yeah, Miami's a 24-hour city. It's like Vegas.
I want to check out.
Miami's nuts. The nightlife in Miami is nuts.
In Bangkok.
So do you have a plan of like, are you permanently being here, or?
I don't want to leave. Like I feel like I've never I've never felt more at home anywhere else. And I know I haven't been here that long, but I've never felt more at home anywhere than I do here in Bangkok. Like, I just feel so comfortable here. Like, the city's easy to navigate. I understand how to get around. Like, the language, I'm learning the language. Very few words now, but like, I can jump in a cab and, I can say hello and goodbye. I know how to order my food. I'm learning the alphabet. I know the numbers. So I'm learning the language, and Thai really isn't that difficult. To be completely honest with you, I know a lot of people struggle with it, but it's all repetition and memory. And I have a really, really good memory. I'm not that intelligent, but I have a really good memory.
That's good. I mean, a lot of people come here, they live here for 10 years and
don't learn the language.
They don't learn anything.
No, I started learning before I even came, Sing song sam si hi ho ching you know what I mean? Like, I know, I learned before I even came here. I've been learning everything, and you just have to be proactive with it. You have to want to learn. You have to want to interact with people, and I feel like my time here will be a lot easier, and there'll be a lot more doors will open up for me if I speak the language. So yeah, I'm learning the language, and like I said, I just feel really comfortable here, and I want to live here. Like, the cost of living is so low, and it's just like there's so many opportunities for content here and content creation, and vast other opportunities that I have even no idea about yet. I'm sure that are going to come up later on down the line.
Well, it's like you said before, and this is what I was telling Ern. I feel like Thailand and Southeast Asia now is like California, 1848.
I think we got about 10 years left before the sweet, it's sweet right now.
I'm ready.
It's sweet.
I'm getting
right
those
now,
shovels
dude.
ready.
Yeah, it's sweet right now, and I feel bad about even coming over here, and like I feel like I'm just adding to the problem.
Yeah, right.
Like I do have that kind of guilt, like coming over here, like everybody else is coming over now. I gotta come over here, and it's just like, but it's like you know what? I overpay for some stuff because I know that I am a visitor and somebody like this isn't my country, so I always operate under the assumption that I'm a visitor here. So if I have to overpay for some stuff, sometimes it is what it is. Like, I'm willing to I'm not willing to get taken advantage of, but I'm willing to overpay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm willing to, I want to contribute to the society over here. I don't want to come over here and be a leech and be a bloodsucker and, and argue and haggle over a 20 or 30 cents, 2 baht or 5 baht. It's like 25 cents. Like, well, I'm not going to argue over 5 baht. Like, if you want me to pay an extra 5 or 10 baht for something, I don't care. I'll pay the extra 5 or 10 baht. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be that cheap Charlie guy over here. Like, I want to bring value to the ecosystem over here. I want to be, a productive member of the society over here. You know what? Like, so it's like, if not, I feel guilty. Like, just coming over here being a leech. Like, I don't want to be that guy.
So you got your condo now.
Got the condo.
You're one less girlfriend as of tomorrow, hopefully.
I'm gonna taper it off.
Okay.
I'm not just
bringing in for a soft landing.
Yeah, just because I don't want her to get depressed and get all suicidal and crying and that's just bad, dude.
So what's your 6-month plan? What do you hope to do?
Sure. So I want to get the visa situation worked out. I have no clue what I'm gonna do there. I mean, obviously it's gonna probably have to be educational visa.
Well,
I don't have
talk to me about that later.
Yeah, we'll get into the visa situation, but I got to get the visa situation figured out. I've got the home stuff locked out. I really need to just concentrate on the YouTube channel and really kind of get that paying
What's the
my
name
bills.
of the channel?
Just John Boseak. Just my name, John Boseak. Yep. And I'm just working really hard on my YouTube channel. I work 7 days a week. I try and film videos every single day. And my main source of income right now is video editing. So I edit for 2 or 3 different podcasts right now. I do all of their short form content. I do all of their TikToks.
I think that's a really in demand thing.
It is. The short form content right now is really what's
people need that.
It's a funnel. You really just want to get people obviously to the platform to your YouTube channel so that you can make money. So I'm specializing. I do all of these short form content right now. I do reels. I do TikToks.
Yeah. Because you've done that before, right?
Yeah, I've been editing video for 5.5 years.
Oh,
so
right.
When I started my YouTube channel, I couldn't afford an editor. So I just had to sit down and thug it out. I had to learn how to use all the editing software. I had to learn how to edit podcasts, all the post-production stuff. I had to learn how to do the thumbnails. I had to learn how to do
you had really good thumbnails, I can see from YouTube.
Yeah, I'm a graphic design artist, so I know how to do and then you got to learn the SEO and the whole back end with the SEO and all that. So I had to learn all of that stuff, and so now I know enough to be able to market that on my own. So my main source of income right now, like I said, I'm doing all the short form content. I'm doing TikToks, Reels. I run a clips channel for 2 different YouTube channels. So that's my main source of income. And then I have my YouTube channel, which I do. So I wake up in the morning and I do work for my clients from 8 a.m. until 9 or 10 a.m. and then I go out and I film for my YouTube channel from noon until 4 or 5 p.m. and then I edit all of those videos same day, and I get them up by 8 p.m. my time so that it's 8 a.m. in the US when my videos are going up every single day. So I work my ass off, you know. I want to grow my YouTube channel. I want to do the vlogging. Like I love doing the vlogging because I'm in Southeast Asia, and like demand for people wanting to see this kind of content right now it's really high. Like 90% of my traffic comes from YouTube recommendations. Like YouTube just like pushing my content to people's FYP page or like FYP.
The homepage.
The homepage. So I want to, keep doing the vlogs, but I also like doing this. I like sitting down. I like having I like talking to people and having conversations. So I think I want to go that route. I want to start my own podcast here in Bangkok. You stole my name. I got to give you that, dude. The one night in Bangkok is just such a kick-ass name for a podcast.
I had another name that I was going to do.
Such a kick-ass name. I looked it up, and that's how I found your podcast.
Oh, really? I had another name, and then we filmed a bunch, and then I was going to post the first episode, and the night before I was like, maybe this name is better.
Just on a whim, huh?
Yeah, just like out of nowhere, yeah.
Such a great name for a podcast. Dude, you've got the perfect name for a podcast here in Bangkok. Yeah. It's awesome, yeah. So I want to do that. I want to do the long form content. I want to do the interviews. I definitely want to set up my own little studio here in Bangkok and just do the long form content as well as the vlogging and then the short form content that I'm editing. So yeah, I stay busy. I have a 6-month plan, and then I want to explore all of Southeast Asia, not just Thailand. I want to do Laos. I want to do Cambodia. I want to do, I want to go to Vietnam. I want to go over to the Philippines and just travel and film and edit and film and edit. Yeah.
That's the new American dream.
It is really, it is really. Yeah. It's awesome. And, I got this gut just from being here for 3 weeks. Like I didn't have a gut before I came over here, and now I have a gut because I can't stop eating. Like the food here is so good and it's so cheap.
Really? You enjoy Thai food?
Oh no, I hate Thai food.
Oh. So what you had?
I'm trying to get into the Thai food, but I have something called Crohn's disease, and I don't know if you know what that is, but it's like inflammation of like the lower intestine and the lower
chilies. It may not be the.
Dude, I can't have anything spicy.
Right.
Yeah, spicy food. You'll be calling 911 or whatever it is here in Thailand.
191.
Yeah, 191. You'd be calling 191 on me. There'll be an ambulance coming to get me. What is it? What is it? What's the emergency number here?
1669?
1669?
I
actually have no idea what it is.
Yeah.
I should probably know.
1669.
I can't drink coffee. I can't have spicy food. So my dietary, I have a lot of dietary restrictions, but the food here in Thailand, none of it upsets me. Like I've eaten all kinds of crazy shit since I've been here, and I have no problems at all with like my situation. So yeah, I can't stop eating here.
I think you'll after
Pepper Lunch. You go to Pepper Lunch?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that place. I know it's gonna get old after a while, but I love that place. Places like that.
I think after a month or two of being here, I think your body will start to feel better.
Kind of acclimate, yeah.
Because that for one, but also in the US, like all the food is so processed.
They're poisoning us over there. That's what I realized. Like
here you can go and get, someone will make the food from scratch in front of you. For like 50 baht.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like all of the chemicals and stuff they put in the foods over there, they just don't allow in the food supply over here.
Yeah. I remember when I came here, don't ask me why, but I got a little box of Fruit Loops, the cereal.
Dude, same.
And I poured it into the bowl and I was like, why? Do you know what this is? The cereal, it's like they're circles and they have like bright colors.
And there's a toucan on the box
with
a different color.
I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll show you later.
Breakfast cereal's real big in America.
The cereal's bright colors, but here the colors aren't really bright.
The food dyes. They don't allow.
It's because they don't allow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't allow certain things to be in the food.
They don't allow the food dyes over here. And I got same thing. I got a box of Fruit Loops at the house right now. It doesn't even taste the same. I'm eating them. I'm like, what is this? This doesn't taste the same at all. Like, yeah. So the food supply over here is complete. And I've noticed that because every time I ate in the U.S., I would get sick, and I always thought it was from my Crohn's disease. So I'm like, oh, it's got to be my Crohn's, dude. I haven't had I haven't thrown up one time since because I used to like with my Crohn's disease, I'll wake up in the morning and vomit every morning. Just
like even something I don't eat fast food a lot, but like. Even if I went to Burger King here.
Right, yeah.
I don't know
Burger
if you've
King the other day.
Been there, but maybe it's just my impression, but it seems totally different than the US.
100% it is.
Different?
1000%.
It's here it seems like edible.
It doesn't make you sick. Like it doesn't seem
like real
stomach.
food. In the US, it's just like complete garbage.
Yeah, it's trash. Yeah,
Just make it as fast as the customer want.
They're poisoning us over there in the United States. The food supply over there, they're poisoning us with the preservatives and the food dyes and the seed oils and the GMOs and everything else they're doing to the food over there. It doesn't exist over here. So like I haven't been getting sick from the food, so I'm able to eat bigger portions now, and it's just like
you'll walk it off.
Dude, I wake up and I'm doing 15,000 steps every day. At least 15,000 steps every single day, like all over Bangkok.
It's a good time to be here with the weather. It's not too hot yet.
Beautiful. And you know what? Bangkok weather mirrors Miami weather.
Yeah.
So like I'm not like I don't have to adjust to the climate over here because I'm used to it. It's the same as back home. It's the same as Miami. The rainy season's the same. The summers are the same. It's like 80, 90 degrees with 80% humidity. Like those dog days of summer, it's the same in Miami. Same exact weather. So
Ern, for his first month in Thailand, in Bangkok, where do you think he should go? Give him a recommendation.
Probably like food or
clothes.
Yeah, nights out. I don't know.
Anywhere.
What do you think? Nana, Soy Cowboy, Sukhumvit.
But you check out just Khao San Road, right? Like
that was a little overwhelming for me. I'm not gonna lie. Khao San was a little overwhelming because there was just like you're
loudest
shoulder to
music you've ever
shoulder
heard,
with people. There's so
I
many
mean,
people.
he can check like the tourist spot, the Sai 11 thing that like people mention a lot because like.
I think I almost have to as a rite of passage. Like I feel like Khao San Road is just a rite of passage. Like you come here and it's just something you have to do. You have to experience.
Yeah.
So
So there's something that you can learn.
Yeah.
I think the best shortcut I could tell you is find a Thai girl that you're not trying to get with,
right?
And just hang out, be your friend, and she'll
be your friend.
She'll lead you everywhere you want to go.
Possible?
Oh, it's possible.
Is that possible?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We'll see.
You have any friends that are?
I have friends.
Do you have any friends that are open to taking an ex-wanted convict around?
I hate that stigma, man. I really hate that stigma.
Actually, I want to ask you about that because I feel like in Thailand or in Asia, people are very judgmental about appearance. So I'm curious about your tattoos. Does it intimidate people? Have you noticed?
I think people are a little bit standoffish with me at first.
Yeah.
Just because of the initial, I think it's like, I look in the mirror every day, so I just don't, I'm used to it. But I think there's a little bit of a shock value when people see me. Especially, I used to have a bald head. I used to bic razor my head every day, and my whole head's tattooed.
Oh, tattooed.
Like my whole entire head's tattooed. So like when I like have my head shaved, it's like a wetsuit. Like it comes right up to my hairline, and so I understand like the initial shock value, but I feel like when I open my mouth and I start speaking and I start talking to people, and and it's just like the vernacular I use and the vocabulary I have, and I don't speak with ego. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a tough guy. I don't try to intimidate people. I don't try and like talk over people or like always one up somebody with stories and stuff. Like I'm a humble guy. You know what I mean? Like I'll let people have their moment, so it's like I think people open up to me more once they just start talking to me and they get comfortable with me. But no, I do feel like there is that initial shock value of my aesthetic. People are like, whoa, like what's going on with this guy? But like I said, once I start talking, people are like, all right, this guy's all right.
I mean, in Thailand, in Bangkok, especially in Bangkok, tattoo thing doesn't shock.
Dude, I see.
It's because we are like
there's
diverse.
There's a lot of weirdos running,
a lot of people, lots of foreigners. It doesn't shock us. It's some person they don't have any tattoo, but like the way they talk, it's just like.
I feel like mine looks kind of tame.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I see a lot of weirdos walking around here like crazy looking people. So I feel like I'm more of like kind of. They just may be me because I'm used to it, but there's that initial shock value, absolutely.
Do you have any plans for the weekend?
This weekend? No, no. I'm just gonna get comfortable in my new place, and
have you been to the Jod Fairs market?
No.
It's near where your new condo is.
No,
but I think it's closing.
Really
I could be wrong. I think
it might be
rid
of it, or
I think so.
They're gonna move. They're like developing the property or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that going on out here. They're just developing everywhere.
Yeah.
They're building. Like the infrastructure here is so awesome, and it's the dirtiest city I've ever been to, but it's the cleanest. It's that paradigm where there's some parts where you'll just be walking and like something will waft up like a scent, and it'll just knock you off your feet almost. Like it'll make you want to puke. But then you take like 5 steps and you're like, this is the cleanest place I've ever been. Like the MRT and the BTS here.
Yes.
Dude, there isn't a shred.
Mixed.
There isn't a candy wrapper anywhere on the floor. Like you go to New York and there's just like homeless people living in the subway.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not like that here. This is like one of the most cleanest.
I think a woman just got lit on fire.
Dude, they did. That was horrible. Like, what is going on in the United States, man? What is going on, dude? It's so unsafe and so expensive. Yeah, it's horrible. But no, I love Bangkok. I really love it here. I do. I genuinely love it here, and I'm gonna try and be the best version of myself that I can be to, like, give back to society and humanity and all of those things. Yeah,
I'm excited for you. I remember what it was like, when everything is like, it's a complete new beginning. Everything is new.
You're kind of chilling now. You're used to everything. So I'm like, yeah, I'm still in that like eyes wide. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm sure they're going to do this anyway, but anyone that has advice for you, drop it down in the comments below.
Please do, yeah. Anything that you feel like is helpful, please let me know. And I'm open to constructive criticism as well.
Yeah.
Always.
But sometimes you just got to learn the lessons on your own. A little bit. You
have to the hard way sometimes. And unfortunately, I've had to learn the hard way. Every lesson I've had to learn has been the hard way. Yeah.
John, thank you for coming by.
Oh, thanks for having me.
If you have any questions about, like, I don't know, getting set up here and avoiding some of the traps, definitely let me or Ern know.
I'm going to pick your guys' brain.
Yeah, we'll help you out. If you guys want to see more of the people that are running to here in Bangkok, if you want to know what it's like to live in the greatest country in the world, hit the subscribe button and we will see you in the next episode.